across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. Stand by for 3 powerhouse hours of news, views and topical debate. I'm your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you all the way to 7 o'clock. Get involved, get on the phone and call me on 0344499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number. That's 0344499 1000, and I promise to play your message out. It is Thursday, February the 12th. Here's what's coming up. That tragic little man, Keir Starmer, pompously demands an apology from Sir Jim Ratcliffe for daring to say what millions of Brits firmly believe, that not-so-great Britain has been colonised by migrants claiming benefits and wrecking the economy. The Prime Minister storms that Sir Jim's honest opinion is offensive and wrong. Is it? 0344499 1000. And as I just said to Ian Collins, who the hell is Starmer to tell people what they can and cannot say? When did he appoint himself the language fascist? Unbelievable. 0344499 1000. Meanwhile, was Peter Mandelson's manic enthusiasm for handing the Chagos Islands to China's best friend Mauritius driven by personal gain? Serious questions are being asked as the mystery continues over quite why Mandy and Starmer's gang of fools was so keen to offload the strategic Indian Ocean territory. If it was another of Mandelson's alleged self-financial help projects, the scandal could bring down the government. Fingers crossed. 0344499 1000. In other news, I'll look at the Thames Valley Police's strange dithering over launching what looks like the clear-cut case against Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Are we talking here about cap-doffing Rozzers just being deferential to the royals? 0344499 1000. Plus, another bust-up over stupid Starmer's abysmal lack of judgment as the angry former head of the Foreign Office questions the imminent appointment of Antonia Romeo to the top civil service job of Cabinet Secretary, and says that his offers to help with the vetting process have been ignored. You'd think Starmer might have learned his lesson by now on the vetting front, but apparently not. 0344499 1000. Also on today's packed agenda, the council dog ban that's driving pet lovers barking mad. It's around where I live, Camden Council. They're cracking down more and more on dogs in parks. And dog owners say that this is because, or some critics say this is because Muslims don't like dogs. So are they kowtowing to the Islamic community at the expense of dog lovers who want to take their dog for a walk and let it off the lead in the park? 0344499 1000. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Thursday afternoon together, and let's spend the first 20 minutes or so in the excellent company of my former producer, now Talk's ace reporter, Samara Gill. Hello, Samara.
Hi, Kev. Great to be on the show.
Yeah, look at you, down the line on Zoom. Ooh. But
I'm
anyway,
running around. I've had so much to do, but I really wanted to talk about this, actually.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I got you on because, of course, this broke yesterday. Jim Ratcliffe, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, co-owner of Manchester United, one of the richest men in the country, if not the richest man, multi-billionaire. Before we discuss it, let's remind ourselves of what caused this ongoing storm. This is Jim Ratcliffe on Sky News yesterday.
We can't have an economy with 9 million people on benefits and huge levels of immigrants coming in. I mean, the UK is being colonised. It's costing too much money. It will cause... It'll cause... Well, yeah, the UK is being colonised by immigrants, really, isn't it? I mean, the population of the UK was 58 million in 2020. Now it's 70 million. That's 12 million people.
Now, most of our audience, Samara, totally agree with Jim Ratcliffe. For the record, the Prime Minister's got no right to demand that he apologise. He's got no right to say he's wrong. It's Jim Ratcliffe's honest, held opinion. Today, Jim Ratcliffe has issued a statement saying that he's sorry if what he said offended anyone, but he has not retracted what he said, because for my mind, it's true. Now, you and I spoke earlier, and you shocked me by saying that you're not with Ratcliffe on this one. What's your view on it?
I mean, the term, you know, people in ivory towers doesn't even begin to cut it when we talk about Jim Ratcliffe. He doesn't even reside in the United Kingdom. He lives in Monaco. He hasn't paid a cent of British tax for years. It's not like he loves this country in any respect. And I get a little bit cynical of the conservative movement when I see everyone rally behind this man overnight when they refuse to do an inch of research or even watch the full interview. In the full interview, he actually says, quote, "I like Starmer. He's a very nice man." He talks about his friendship with Starmer. We forget that he actually backed Labour in the 2024 election. This is someone who's not even political or never really was. He's an absolute chameleon, and he actually, in my opinion, represents the oligarchy of the United Kingdom, someone who takes and takes and takes, doesn't want to live in this country. I mean, look what he's done to Manchester United. He's made countless cuts. He's fired multiple people behind the scenes, and he spoke about that in the interview, about how he has become a villain and how it's very hard to be him. He's not a likable character. I don't know why we're siding with him.
I really liked him in this interview. Don't you hate people, Samara, who don't want to live in their own countries?
Well, yeah.
How's Australia doing right now?
Yeah,
do you even know? Do you care?
I'd be happy to remigrate back to Australia. I am a fan of remigration. Australia is a much better country.
So it's okay for him to live in Monaco then? Monaco, isn't it?
What? So you think it's fair that he goes and lives in Monaco?
If he wants to, free choice. The guy, he saves, I gather, literally by being in Monaco, Monte Carlo, he saves literally billions of pounds. Now, I can't blame a person for doing that. I know what you mean. People always go, oh, if you're so patriotic, what are you doing in another country? But if you are fabulously rich, like Jim Ratcliffe, British tax rates are absolutely prohibitive. I know this because I'm going to have to move to Monaco soon because, of course, I'm fabulously rich as well. No, seriously. I can...
You know you'd leave it at a drop of a hat, Kev.
Yeah, I'm going to move to Australia.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll definitely take you in. You can be
okay, look. I'm being facetious.
Say all you want about Jim and his tax avoidance, but sorry, Grangemouth, which is one of his companies, actually takes rebates from the Labour government, hundreds of millions of pounds, allegedly. They've been propping up one of his companies for years. So he's very happy to take from the British taxpayer, but he doesn't want to be swindled by the British tax office. So I just think we always need to look into these people as a conservative movement before we start worshipping them overnight. That's what I'm trying to say. He's really, really been helped by the Labour government, and he has said that he's a friend of Keir Starmer. Well, Keir Starmer's no friend of mine, I can tell you that.
Well, nor me. But he did also say in that interview that he was an admirer of Nigel Starmer as well. Nigel Farage. Yeah. So, you know, it wasn't just a kind of eulogy about Keir Starmer. He was talking about various political leaders. But, OK, I respect your view about him living, you know, in tax dodging Monaco. But what about what he actually says? What about what he actually says? That Britain has been colonised and you can't run a proper economy with 9 million people on benefits, many of them these migrants that have come here in their droves for now the best part of 20 years.
Totally. Look, I mean, I can't disagree with that. I thought the language was pretty harsh. I mean, colonised is such an interesting word.
Well, you
someone
would say that because you're from the colonies, aren't you?
Well, yeah, exactly.
You get
yes,
very touchy about that word, don't you?
Well, I do get touchy about it, yeah, because I am from a British colony. And you know, colonialism had many great aspects to it, but it is quite funny when it's sort of reversed on other people. They start to get their back up. And look, I think he might have maybe worded it a little bit wrong, but in my opinion, yes, there obviously has been massive change in the demographic of Britain, in how many people have come across. Mass migration is actually not beneficial to anyone. It's not beneficial to the migrants, and it's not beneficial to the British people, because, you know, when you think about migrant success stories, which Britain actually used to do really well, where they used to take the best and brightest from all over the world and sort of co-opt
now
them.
we'll take anyone, right?
Well, no, but that's an issue.
Exactly
Yeah,
it. No, I mean it.
you know?
I mean it.
You'll even take someone like me into the country.
Yeah,
which
yeah. See, that was a
really
major political mistake letting you in. That's for damn sure. No, but I mean, to be serious for a second. So to summarise your view, you have reservations about Ratcliffe himself and his personal tax arrangements and the fact that he lives in Monaco, but you do basically agree with his statement.
I don't think England's been colonized by immigration. I think it's ridiculous policies, consecutive governments that haven't allowed integration properly. You know, America, we give America a lot of shtick, but America actually does immigration, the legal kind, pretty properly. You know, they say if you're on Team America, then you're good to go with us. Yeah. That's the issue. The British mentality is actually the main problem here. You've been absolutely way too welcoming, and you've allowed these communities to really close themselves off and exist within their own sort of fronts, almost like a fortress. And that's a problem. America, I don't think, has that problem so much, because they really make sure that they have one message and one way of living that people can get behind or get out.
Let's have a quick look, because I want to get your take on Donald Trump's lawsuit in a minute. Massive story today that the BBC disastrously loses its claim that this case cannot be heard because nobody saw Panorama in America. An absolutely nonsensical position to take, and they have quite rightly failed. But before we do, let's, on the Jim Ratcliffe debate, let's give the final word, if we must, to the preposterous, calamitous Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy. Take it away, Dave.
Well, I think...
OK, well, we really got going there, didn't we? Can we try that again one more time? Can we?
Due diligence is vitally...
Well, I think of Manchester United. It's a multicultural club with multicultural supporters. And I think of many people, like my parents, who arrive in this country to contribute, and there is still a place for those people. So the Prime Minister is right. A lot of people will have found that language offensive, wrong. He should apologise.
That's just not true. It's just not true. People did not find that language offensive. They may have disagreed with it. They didn't find it offensive. I hate the way these Labour idiots, the Tories are just about it, all these pompous Westminster bubble gang appoint themselves the language police. You mustn't lose that language. You mustn't say invasion. You mustn't say colonise. Shut up and get on with mismanaging the country. Honestly, they make me furious. Let's move on, though.
David Lammy specifically, by the way, this country never repressed you, David Lammy. You are Deputy Prime Minister. You are literally the living proof that this country, I'm pretty sure, is giving you every opportunity.
Yeah.
He's constantly talking about being repressed and being a victim of everything. He's no victim.
Exactly right. By the way, let me ask the audience, whether or not you agree with Jim Ratcliffe, and I want to hear from you. Do you agree with him or do you disagree with him? Do you find what he said offensive? I mean, the Starmer said it's wrong. I mean, I don't think it's wrong. I mean, you might take issue with the word colonised, but Jim Ratcliffe is right. In 2020, there were 58 million people in this country. Here we are, 6 years on, there are 70 million. That is a major expansion of our population, which, if you felt like it, you could call colonisation. But let me, the audience, give me a call. Is that offensive? Whether or if you agree with it, let me know. If you disagree with it, let me know. But do you find it offensive? Like Starmer says, Lammy, a lot of people found that offensive. Did they? 0344 499 1000. What do they think we are, children? I think we can take a few hurty words. It's pathetic. Let's move on, though. A massive story, Samara. The BBC has failed in its bid to strike out Donald Trump's lawsuit, $15 billion lawsuit in Florida, saying that the BBC defamed him and violated a law in that state insofar as they edited his speech, his Capitol Hill speech, to make it look as if he was calling for violence and insurrection, when, in fact, he was calling for the opposite. So they definitely edited him. The BBC aren't contesting that. They've admitted that all along and said, oh, no, we made a right balls up here, shouldn't have done it. But they maintained that he can't sue them because nobody saw Panorama in America. Therefore, the Florida court does not have jurisdiction over this case. And I thought, what an antediluvian stance to take. You know, have they, I mean, I know the BBC's a bit old-fashioned, but have they heard of YouTube? Do they realise that people can watch the BBC iPlayer in America? What a ridiculous case. It's been kicked out. The case against the BBC starts on Monday. So dear old Auntie Beeb and its pathetic lawyers had better regroup fast, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you were saying this from the very start, Kev, about the fact that Samir Shah essentially admitted guilt to begin with by saying that they did do that. I mean, I was actually on a show on the BBC kind of around the time that that was all happening, and the staff were just outwardly laughing at him as he sent email after email sort of admitting guilt to this offense in some way. So I think they have a lot to answer for. The thing is, it wasn't just that cut. It was years and years of left-wing propaganda that was anti-Trump that actually influenced a lot of the West to hate him. So it's not just really this clip. I feel like it's an amalgamation of all that. Yeah. And unfortunately, the BBC for far too long has gone completely unchecked. And I got to give it to Donald Trump. He's someone who's absolutely going to hold their feet to the flames and say, no, you've got to take accountability. I think the billions of dollars is a very good but big slap on the wrist for the BBC, who has pretty much sort of indoctrinated a whole generation with left-wing propaganda, probably I would say since the early 2000s.
We're going to rejoin this story a little later in this hour, but basically, as you just said, and I've said this all along, when you're being sued for libel, BBC, it's a good idea not to admit that you're guilty of it, which is what they did. They just said, oh, yeah, we did edit the tape. We're not sure who did it, but it was a big mistake. So they've already admitted that they defamed him. They're just saying he's got no right to sue. And they're also saying, well, you know, we screened this documentary before, after the presidential election, therefore it couldn't have affected me. It's not just about his electoral chances. It's about his personality. It's about his character. They tried to say he's the kind of guy who called for revolution and violent insurrection. He says he's not. And I would say the BBC better get their checkbook ready. Samara, fantastic to talk to you. See you very soon. The brilliant Samara Gill, their talk presenter. Now, let's go to break. And when we come back, we'll talk to David Wooding, columnist at The Sun, former editor of the Sunday Express, about some of the big stories today, particularly the Chagos Islands and the growing concern over Peter Mandelson's role in trading off that strategic territory to China's best friend Mauritius. That next. Stay tuned.
We genuinely are on resignation watch. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Labour MPs, they say, listen, Keir, your position is untenable. This is all about appointing that rat, Peter Mandelson, who faces a criminal investigation.
Can Keir Starmer survive the Mandelson scandal? We have breaking news for you. We've just been talking about, of course, Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff. We've now had another resignation from number 10. And Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, Tim Allen, has now also resigned. The plot is thickening. The noose is tightening.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. A warm welcome to my next guest, columnist at The Sun, former editor of The Sunday Express, and a very, very, very old colleague of mine, David Wooding. Hi, Dave.
Afternoon, Kevin.
How you doing? Still old?
All right.
We're both getting on, aren't we? Right, let's talk about some of the big stories. This is an interesting story. Increasing questions are being asked about the mysterious enthusiasm among Keir's gang of fools. You know, Keir Starmer, Richard Hermer, the Attorney General, Jonathan Powell especially. I'll show you a bit of video of him in a minute. And, of course, Peter Mandelson, who was manically pursuing the giveaway of the Chagos Islands when he was briefly our man in Washington, the ambassador to the United States. So everybody said, well, why are this gang, and particularly Mandelson, so keen to push this through? Well, they didn't really have to. And increasingly questions are now being asked of the police as they investigate Mandelson, who actually says my big achievement was persuading Donald Trump to let us go ahead and give away the Chagos when he was in Washington. There are increasing calls for the police to examine very closely any communications between Mandelson and other officials about the Chagos Islands, because the suggestion is that allegedly Mandelson might have been once again, allegedly, lining his own pockets.
Well, yes, Kevin. What's interesting about this is that, and I've seen this unfold many times during the years I worked as a journalist in Westminster, is often when a government is defending an allegation or some kind of scandal and pushing back against it, it's because the sleaze that really exists is far, far deeper, the stuff we don't know about. And this Epstein story is about far more than the ambassador to Washington's friendship with a man who was a paedophile. It's about so many other things. And now that Mandelson has gone, the spotlight is being turned onto other people who were involved in these emails, one of them being Jonathan Powell, who was the chief of staff for Tony Blair for 10 years, and therefore worked very closely with Peter Mandelson, and is now working for Keir Starmer. And he was an enthusiastic fan of giving away the islands to Chagos, the Chagos Islands to Mauritius, which is going to cost the British taxpayer 10 billion quid. And a lot of questions are being asked of him now about all sorts of things, and one of them is this.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you brought Jonathan Powell up, because watch this video. This I find extraordinary. Take it away, Mr. Powell.
These are very tiny islands in the middle of the Indian Ocean where no one actually goes. So I don't think we should be too worried about losing that bit of territory. We're probably losing more to tidal erosion in the east coast than that. What
an extraordinary thing for him to say, as if they're just irrelevant strips of land in the middle of the Indian Ocean. Nobody ever goes there, or they're very rarely visited. But he did sort of skip over the nuance that in the middle of these islands, this archipelago, is Diego Garcia, on which is one of the world's most strategic military airstrips, used by us, used by the Americans to patrol the Far East and the Middle East. He didn't mention that, and he's just saying, well, nobody ever goes there, why don't we give it away? That's a bizarre thing for him to say. He was talking to Times Radio there. What do you think of that, Dave?
Absolutely astonishing, because we all know the United States, President Trump has come out and said, it's a mistake. They're looking at it all over again. And of course, there's so many strategic and diplomatic and geopolitical issues connected to these islands. I mean, Mauritius, who are going to take it back, have got close links with China, who are seen now as the big enemy. So what are we doing? Are we turning over just a little piece of land, or are we turning over a big strategic defence island?
Yeah, and Kate Huey, Baroness Kate Huey, is leading the charge, is saying that Mandelson's emails and communications on the Chagos Islands must be examined very, very closely, because, you know, allegedly it could be his penchant for lining his own pockets to his own advantage that might be at the centre of our mysterious enthusiasm, or Britain's mysterious enthusiasm, to give away these very, very strategic islands.
And Andrew Griffiths, the shadow business secretary, is saying there's something deeply suspicious about the whole affair. Yeah, and you don't get people saying things like that on the front bench unless there's something they know we don't know. Yeah, and you will know as an experienced Westminster journalist, Dave, that if this turns out to be true, if Mandelson had his fingers allegedly in the pie on this, was you know, lining his own pockets, that'll bring the government down. So I think we are at a crossroads here that needs to be sorted out fairly soon. Here is another story that I want to get your learned opinion on, and that is the fact that Starmer is on the cusp. He's just about to appoint, you know, a new cabinet secretary. Her name is Antonia Romeo. She's an old civil servant, Dame Antonia Romeo. Now, a guy called Lord Simon MacDonald, who used to be permanent secretary at the Foreign Office, in other words, the boss of the Foreign Office, she used to work for him, and she was sent to be our consul in New York, where she was charged with, or there were allegations of bullying, harassment and expenses fraud. Now, it's important to stress, she was cleared of all of those. Lord MacDonald went on to Channel 4 last night and said, this is extraordinary. He said that he has been desperately trying to help Starmer in the vetting process about this woman, the implication being he does not think in a month of Sundays she deserves to have the job, and he is being ignored. Have a look at what he had to say on... He said to Channel 4 News, he said, I really wish I wasn't telling you all about this, but no one will talk to me. He said, I am offering myself to the vetting process. I know about this woman, and they are ignoring me. Have a look.
Diligence is vitally important. The Prime Minister has recent bitter experience of doing the due diligence too late. It would be an unnecessary tragedy to repeat that mistake.
I mean, they are saying that she's already been approved as suitable for this job, so why do any more process?
I repeat, the due diligence needs to be thorough. If the candidate mentioned in the media is the one, in my view, the due diligence has some way still.
That was a diplomatic way of putting it. He doesn't think she is worthy of that job. He clearly could contribute a vital role in the vetting process, and he is being ignored. Given Starmer's problem over the hopeless non-vetting of Peter Mandelson, you'd think he might be a bit more careful now, but apparently not. This is, again, this is an extraordinary development, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that you get one senior civil servant saying of another such things, including that when he was challenged on that interview, he said there is still some way to go on the vetting, which clearly shows there's something else he doesn't know about. Now, I'll give your listeners and viewers some idea of what they might be, because in 2020, there was a story in one of the newspapers that Dame Antonia had broken government procurement rules by acquiring £30,000 worth of Farrow and Ball paint and furnishings for her Grace and Favour flat. Now, on top of that, there was also a story floating around that she allowed her husband to use the taxpayer-funded apartment for a work event for free, and that when civil servants, members of staff, complained about this and suggested it was out of order, he threatened these junior staff. Now, these are allegations which have appeared in papers over the years. So that might be what he's talking about. I don't know. But clearly he has reservations for him to say.
I think that's the understatement of the year. If you watch that entire interview, he in a very diplomatic way, he is essentially saying, I keep trying to offer my advice to Keir Starmer, to the vetting process, and between the lines, what he's saying is this woman is not fit for that job. He clearly does not think she should be doing this, and as he said, due diligence, in his view, has not been done, and yet Starmer seems to be ploughing ahead of this. The question to which would be, does this man ever learn? Well,
of course, this is a real problem for Keir Starmer now, because if he now knows there's a sort of Damocles hanging over his head, if he appoints Dame Antonia Romero to do this job and something goes wrong, then that's 3 strikes on not listening to vetting. On the other hand, he could back out of this now and make a U-turn. What I must say, though, Kevin, just in the interest of fairness, because I know talkTV is fair and you know I'm always fair, the reason for appointing her is she's got 25 years of excellent public service. She is seen to be very good at her job, which may be where the bullying allegations come from. And she gets things done. But second, and also, he's keen to appoint the first woman senior head of the civil service. That would be a big coup for Labour. And also trying to take on these allegations that he's got a boys' club in Number 10. I think that's what the other side of that story.
I like the idea of the first woman cabinet secretary, but I feel that we haven't heard the last of this story, to say the least. Dave, really good to talk to you. Thank you so much. David Wooding, columnist at The Sun, former editor of the Sunday Express, very experienced Westminster journalist. Now, let's go to a break. When we come back, we're going to talk to former Met Police detective Mike Neville about the curious approach to the Andrew Mountbatten Windsor case by the Thames Valley Police. There's something strange about what they're not doing, and that is actually getting to grips with interviewing that guy and saying that this is a criminal investigation. Let's talk to Mike after this break. Stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about the former Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, now, of course, residing in his new reduced circumstances, a 5-bedroom mansion in Sandringham with a full staff, a chef and servants. God, what a nightmare it must be for him. Of course, yesterday, Thames Valley Police announced, they made a kind of weird announcement that criminal prosecutors are assessing the situation vis-à-vis Andrew's emails to Jeffrey, alleged emails to Jeffrey Epstein, when he was trade envoy. You know, he'd go on one of these missions, these alleged missions to drum up British trade to foreign countries, and then there would be a report made, and he would receive the report, and within minutes, every single time, would email them, according to the Epstein files, that is, to Jeffrey Epstein, a foreign American businessman. Now, that is, in my view, very, very, well, not just in my view, as a matter of fact, it's extreme, it's exactly the same as the Mandelson allegations, that he would forward confidential British memos and emails, government memos, secrets, to Jeffrey Epstein. Now, the police didn't hang around then. I mean, it was about a day flat, wasn't it? Right, criminal investigation. We're going around his house. We're going to pull, you know, bring in the cameras. Here we are, bringing out boxes, you know, the usual perp walk stuff. So, you know, they were down on Mandelson like a ton of bricks, pretty sharpish. Now, Andrew stands accused of exactly the same wrongdoing, and yet no removing of boxes, no actual announcement that we are criminally investigating them. Instead, oh, we're checking with the CPS, we're checking with prosecutors. Let's talk to former Met Police Detective Mike Neville. Hi, Mike.
Hello, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, when you're a cop, right, you know, I understand that sometimes, you know, you've got one of these 50-50 cases, you're not quite sure. Well worth having a chat with the CPS. If we pursue this case, do you think it'll stand up in court? Is it worth us carrying on? Okay, fair enough. But the Thames Valley Police's attitude seems to indicate that they don't feel that they are in any way qualified to work out whether or not there's a case to answer on the part of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Now, I'm not a cop, but I think any member of the public could see those memos, those emails that he sent to Jeffrey Epstein, allegedly, if the Epstein files are genuine, and say, well, yeah, of course the police should investigate this criminally. Instead, they're just coming out with this kind of mealy words about, oh, yes, criminal prosecutors are assessing the case. Why are they dithering so much? Why are they dragging their heels?
Well, firstly, as a police officer, it's you have to have reasonable grounds to make an arrest, and the offence here is misconduct in office, and the crime is quite simple. You're a public officer, and he was an official trade envoy for the government. You do willful misconduct, well, sending confidential emails to people who shouldn't receive them, who can potentially make money out of them, it is, I would suggest, potential misconduct. And do you abuse the public's trust? And my test for this would be, what would my mother say? And if I said to my mother, I've received confidential government documents and I'm going to send them to a friend who might make money of them, my mother would say that's a bad thing. So why is he not simply being arrested, the house searched, and any other documents found? And I can only see it's some kind of deference because of who he is. Now, I've always been sort of quite Cromwellian in my view, you know, so I'm happy to play the game and be respectful to the royal family, but if they do wrong, they should be treated like everybody else.
Yeah, and in Mandelson's case, as I say, you know, in no time flat, they were in his house removing boxes, announcing a full criminal investigation. The evidence against Mandelson in the Epstein files is almost uncannily exactly the same as the evidence against Andrew. So we didn't get all this with Mandelson, didn't we? We didn't get the police saying, oh, we brought in criminal prosecutors to assess the claims against Peter Mandelson. They just went in. Now, it cannot be, you'll know this, Mike, I don't, but it cannot be the case that every single case that comes across the police's desk, they go to the CPS to ask whether or not it's proceeding, it's worth proceeding. Surely cops have the right to say, well, this is, you know, either an open and shut case or a clear-cut case, let's proceed. They don't have to go to the CPS every single time, do they?
Well, exactly, because as I say, to make an arrest You have to have just reasonable grounds. You don't have to have absolute proof that something has happened. And when you've made the arrest, you can gather more evidence, and then you go to the CPS and say, I've got this case. Now, as I've said, the evidence, or the prima facie evidence, is that a crime has been committed. But the trouble is, I suppose, that Peter Mandelson doesn't hand out the knighthoods. Peter Mandelson doesn't hand out the knighthoods, but the King does. And is there some deference going on here, which should not occur? He should be treated as a private citizen, just like me or you would be arrested.
Yeah, this is why I got you on, because what I suspect here, this is, cap-doffing deference by the police to a member of the royal family. And we've already seen it in terms of Andrew, because not so long ago, when it really started hitting the fan for him, if you remember, there were calls for him to be prosecuted because 100% he clearly abused his position by trying to get his royal protection detective, a member of the police force, to investigate Virginia Giuffre, because she was accusing him of sexually abusing her on 3 different continents, a charge that he continues to deny despite giving her £12 million to shut up. So that was a clear case against him, and the police, after a couple of weeks, said, nothing to see here, we won't be proceeding. It strikes me the only reason they said that is because he's a member of the royal family, he's the King's brother.
Yeah, I've no doubts. But this case, to me, is even more open and shut. You know, there's no doubts about this. You know, there's questions about, well, Victoria was this age, and it's an age of consent in this country, and, you know, it's a grey lines between this and that. But in this case, with the actual sending of these emails, which are official government documents, there is no question of grey areas. He was employed as a special advisor to the Department of International Trade. He did send those documents, and those documents are confidential. And the man who received them, why was he sending to him? Is because that man makes money out of it, and he had some influence over him. So there's no grey, blurred lines here. This is a clear matter where he should be, his home should be searched, devices like computers seized, any documents relating to the similar things taken away, and interviewed under caution in the presence of a lawyer if he wishes to do so. And then the police can decide to go to the CPS and ask for advice. But at the moment, it's a complex investigation. Not really. Go and speak to the man. Go and interview him.
So you feel that there's something strange, something dodgy about the police's reticence to get going on this case? Because they weren't reticent with Mandelson, but they're being very reticent around Andrew, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's for the reasons I said. You know, the king dishes out awards and honours. Mandelson does not, and so people are very respectful in this country. They defer to the king and whatever else. But I think the king, in a way, would rather have a line drawn under this because it just drags on, doesn't it? It's just embarrassing to the royal family, and it's utterly embarrassing to Britain. You know, it's shocking. But I'm a historian, Kevin, and there's no time when the royal family haven't been involved in some shenanigans. There's a big statue of the Duke of York in Pall Mall, and he was nearly brought down by a financial scandal involving a young woman in about 1813. So nothing much changes.
Yeah, you would hope in the 21st century it might, but as I say, I suspect police cap doffing here, and we've had enough of this. Now, what you're saying, Mike, then, just to reiterate, that if you were a serving copper now, what you've seen in terms of the Epstein files, you've got to stress that, you know, in the case against Peter Mandelson and indeed the potential case against Andrew, the genuineness of the Epstein files has to be established. But it looks to all of us as if those emails were sent by both men. So what you're saying then, if you were a serving copper now, your impulse, you'd have already been in Andrew's house and taken the boxes and told him that you'll be interviewed under caution pretty damn soon, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to treat people. We live in the 21st century. You've got to treat people the same. He's been stripped of his royal status anyway. So, I mean, that's even more reason to do this. There's prima facie evidence that a crime has been committed. The police have got reasonable grounds. Get a warrant, go round there, search his house, and if need be, either interview him at the police station under caution or arrest him for suspicion of misconduct in public office. It's pretty simple stuff, really. It's not that complex.
So if he was just an ordinary member of the public, in these circumstances, you know, somebody that nobody knew, the cops wouldn't have to go to the Crown Prosecution Service before they went and felt his collar and searched his house.
Kevin, how many journalists do you know who were arrested on the most spurious reasons
All
under
of them.
Leveson? You know, arrested for the most ridiculous things.
Yeah.
You know, and lives turned over, turmoil left over what? You know, so really some kind of petty accusations, really. This isn't a petty accusation. These are emails which could have made the right person millions and millions of pounds or dollars because of the information, the confidential information that they included. So it really is something to be looked into.
Yeah. Well, listen, Mike, very interesting, and thanks so much for coming on. That's Mike Neville, former Met Police detective. I mean, that's what I suspect is going on here, and I'm sick of it. I think we're all sick of it. You know, this deference to the royal family, this deference to that awful oaf, Andrew. They're treating him very differently to the way they treated Mandelson. Mandelson deserves what he's got so far, and there's obviously a case to answer. The police are going about their business, saying it's a criminal investigation. We're going in his house, we're going to get the info, we're going to get boxes full of his computers, etc. Why aren't they doing that to Andrew? Because the evidence against Andrew is exactly the damn same. Yeah, I think we've got to sort of be me ever so humble, sir. We won't be bothering you. Oh, you know. Is that what we've got on our hands? I hope not. Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. Back in a mo.
We genuinely are on resignation watch. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Labour MPs, they say, listen, Keir, your position is untenable. This is all about appointing that rat, Peter Mandelson, who faces a criminal investigation.
Can Keir Starmer survive the Mandelson scandal? We have breaking news for you. We've just been talking about, of course, Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff. We've now had another resignation from number 10. And Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, Tim Allen, has now also resigned. The plot is thickening. The noose is tightening.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. As I was saying earlier, I think the big breaking news story of the day is Donald Trump's lawsuit against the BBC, which has been lodged in Florida, will go ahead despite the BBC's bid to strike it out of court, saying this whole $10 billion lawsuit, or $15 billion now, lawsuit by the president, the BBC is, you know, just get rid of it, that's stupid, we're not going to do this. Well, and their big contention was, well, nobody saw Panorama, you know, the edited Capitol Hill speech that we admit we did. Nobody saw it in America, so you can't have a case there. And also, we can't defame him because because, you know, it was after the American election, or it was just before the election, and therefore couldn't possibly have affected his electoral chances. It's not just about his electoral chances. It's about his character. It's about defaming his character. They said that he made this speech calling for insurrection, violent rebellion against the American Republic. And he says that libels me. I want $15 billion. So a judge today has ruled that the BBC can do one, and that this case will happen on Monday. So a bad day for the BBC. With me is Chairman of the Republican Overseas UK organisation, Greg Swenson. Well, before I get your thoughts, Greg, let's remind ourselves of how the BBC edited Trump's Capitol Hill speech back then. When was it? 2020. 2020.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you. And we fight. We fight like hell. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
So the latter was what he actually said. Let's get Donald's thoughts on this. This is what he said about it at the end of the last year.
In a little while, you'll be seeing I'm suing the BBC for putting words in my mouth, literally. They put words in my mouth. They had me saying things that I never said coming out. I guess they used AI or something. So we'll be bringing that lawsuit. A lot of people are asking, when are you bringing that lawsuit? Even the media can't believe that one. They actually put terrible words in my mouth having to do with January 6th that I didn't say. And the beautiful words that I said, right? The beautiful words. Talking about patriotism and all of the good things that I said, they didn't say that, but they put terrible words. They actually have me speaking with words that I never said, and they got caught because I believe somebody at BBC said, this is so bad, it has to be reported. That's called fake news. So we'll be filing that suit probably this afternoon or tomorrow morning.
Well, the backdrop to this, Greg, is obviously that the BBC from the get-go admitted that someone did edit this tape to make it look as if he called for insurrection and violent rebellion, which he didn't. So they're right off the bat, they're admitting they did this. They're just saying, well, he's got no jurisdiction in America because nobody saw it. YouTube, you can get the iPlayer, BBC iPlayer in America. So I don't know why they thought they could get away with that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's
and also they're saying he can't prove damages because he went on to be re-elected for this term. That isn't the point, is it? The BBC has made a fool of itself, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, the other networks are guilty as well because they've been trying this for 10 years. It started with the Russia collusion hoax and a number of hoaxes, the Good People on Both Sides, Charlottesville hoax. So this has been a activism by the media. You know, as conservatives, we're used to liberal bias in the mainstream media, but not activist bias. You know, this is where they really went over the line, and they all had this mission to ruin Donald Trump. Even if they failed in 2020, they still tried. And it did great damage even in his first term. Even though he won and took office, it still did great damage to his administration. And so I think this is, you know, there's
and to him personally.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's compensatory damages, and that's fine if they can argue that it didn't have an effect. But then there's punitive damages, because I think there has to be punitive corrections to these networks that are basically, you know, making up stories about.
Yeah, the BBC are busy. Their attitude seems to be based on, well, it's Donald Trump. You can't defame Donald Trump. He's the most awful man in the world. There is nothing worse you can say about a politician than he called for rebellion and violent insurrection to topple the government of his own country. That is incredibly libelous.
I mean,
the BBC trying to contend it's nothing is nonsense.
Yeah, and I'm not defending the BBC, but I would argue also that all of the networks, all of the left-leaning, which is most of them in the U.S., were doing the same thing. They put the word insurrection into every conversation. It clearly wasn't an insurrection, but you know, those words matter. matter, and I think that the president has suffered greatly in both terms because of the activism from the media.
I mean, they did defame him professionally as a politician. You know, they said that he called for insurrection, but that also is a personal defamation as well. Yeah. Now, in the light of this scandal, the editing scandal, which the BBC, when you're going into a libel case, don't admit you're wrong at the first. That's what the BBC. Yeah, we did it, but we don't think it's not a case.
They should have said the dog ate it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that. Because they left out a really important clip, which was when he said, "March peacefully and patriotically."
No, absolutely. You know. They're admitting that. So. Now, in the light of this scandal, the Director General, the boss of the BBC, 570 grand a year or something, Tim Davie, quit, and so did the Chief Executive of BBC News, Deborah Turness. So you got two massive executives. The leading executive of the BBC quit because of it, because of the scandal.
Right.
And the BBC are acting like he hasn't got a case. I mean, I think the BBC is in a world of trouble when this it's on Monday it starts.
And I'm glad at least that they took the honourable action of resigning. But as far as doing that, exactly. So I think they're in a pinch. And now it's not going to be $15 billion. We all know that. Yeah. And we know the president settles for a lot less. He did that with I think at least one network.
Paramount, wasn't it?
Yeah,
with the 60 Minutes. Yeah.
So it's it's not like he expects to get billions of dollars out of this. He's not doing it for the money, obviously. And so, good for him for punching back.
And all the people that say, oh, it's terrible because, the license fee payers will have to pay the, or bear the burden of this immense cost and legal costs and the payout, or the probable payout. Well, that is bad, but it's not Trump's fault. You can't blame him for defending his own reputation.
Right, and again, it's not going to be that kind of number. It's probably going to be something that is a rounding error for the BBC budget. This is probably the biggest network in the world.
But just as because you divide your time now between America and here, due to our tax rules. You must quite often try to watch the BBC when you're. It's easy to watch the BBC. I remember. It is. I mean, you got the iPlayer, you got YouTube.
And any hotel room in the world has the BBC. They surely don't have Fox News or Talk, but it's it is
their loss.
It's also kind of a leading media organization. So a lot of the other media groups get their headlines from the BBC.
So the BBC's contention that there's no way anyone in America could have seen this offending episode of Panorama was always just a complete nonsense, wasn't it?
No, that's just so far from relevant. And it's easy to, I'm not saying you could see every BBC program easily, but as you said, YouTube or the internet, and then it gets tweeted around on social media.
I think you can get the iPlayer pretty easily over there as well. Greg, all dressed up in your fineries off to some posh dinner, obviously. Thank you for fitting us in your busy social schedule.
Good to
see you, Greg. Greg Swenson there, chairman of the Republican Overseas UK organisation here in London. Now, when we come back after the news, we're going to be joined by Reform UK's redoubtable MP, Sarah Poachin. Lots to talk about with her, particularly Labour's obsession with paedophiles. Bit odd, that, isn't it? We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is the second hour of Drive Time today. This is Thursday, February the 12th, and I'm Kevin O'Sullivan. I'm taking you all the way through to 7 o'clock, and we've got lots to get through in this hour. In a little while, we'll talk about around where I live, Camden Council, North London. They've been trying to ban dogs from parks, and critics say it's because Muslims don't like dogs. Therefore, we're kowtowing to the Islamic community around where I live. Very nice people, by the way, but if they don't like dogs in parks, don't go into parks. So we'll talk about that. That is a council diktat that is driving pet lovers barking mad. We'll talk about that in just a little while, but let's go over to my first guest. We're really pleased she could join us. She is, of course, the Reform UK MP for Runcorn and Helsby. A warm welcome to Sarah Pochin. Hi, Sarah.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Now, can I just remind you of what Jim Ratcliffe, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the co-owner of Manchester United, one of the richest men in the country, said yesterday on Sky News.
You can't have an economy with 9 million people on benefits and huge levels of immigrants coming in. I mean, the UK is being colonised. It's costing too much money. It will cause... It'll cause... Well, yeah. The UK has been colonised by immigrants, really, isn't it? I mean, the population of the UK was 58 million in 2020. Now it's 70 million. That's 12 million people.
Now, Sarah, ever since he said that, that news kind of broke yesterday on this show. Our audience, my switchboard, is just jammed with people who agree with every word Jim Ratcliffe said. Now, whether or not you agree with him, though, and there seems to be a lot of pointless discussion, in my view, over the use of the word colonisation. Whether or not you agree with him, the Prime Minister came out and said what he said is wrong and offensive and he should apologise. David Lammy said a lot of people will find that offensive. I don't find it offensive. I don't think anyone finds it offensive. It is the honest opinion of an extremely important member of our national community, the richest man in the country. And the Prime Minister's got no right to demand that he apologises. He has today, Jim said, listen, if what I said offended anyone, I don't want to offend them. I apologise for that. He's not retracting it. Now, I agree. I don't care that he used the word colonising, but I agree with what he said. Do you?
I totally agree with what Jim Ratcliffe said in terms of the sentiment. He may have used a word that was a little bit clumsy, but the point is he was making the point that in this country we now have 6.7 million foreign nationals. 1.9 million of those are claiming from our benefit system, costing us last year alone £9 billion. It is not sustainable, and the British taxpayers have had enough.
Indeed. And what do you make of the Prime Minister, who seems to have appointed himself, you know, the language police officer of the country, demanding that Jim Ratcliffe apologises, informing us that what he said is offensive, Lammy chiming in as well. Who do they think they are, these people?
Well, they're jumping on a bandwagon, aren't they, of trying to be this faux outrage that what Jim Ratcliffe said was in some way an untruth. Or, I mean, I agree he got his figures wrong. But again, I come back to what I said, the sentiment of what he said. I would stand by him. And the likes of Lammy and Starmer jumping on this bandwagon of outrage are simply trying to deflect the current situation in the government of sleaze, of corruption, of, you know, association with paedophiles that's going on, that's quite frankly sickening the British people. And the British people are not fooled by the likes now of Starmer coming out, being outraged by Jim Ratcliffe. The British people want to hear people speak the truth.
Indeed. And you talked, or you alluded to, the Matthew Doyle saga. This, of course, is one of the Prime Minister's many former communications chiefs, who, of course, in the name of the backslapping game, Jobs for the Boys, was, of course, appointed a Lord the moment he quit after doing such a lousy job. So he's gone up to the House of Lords, and it emerges, well, in fact, all of us knew because it was in the newspapers, that he had, if you like, disgraced himself by campaigning for his friend, a councillor in Scotland, who was then accused of paedophile offences and subsequently found guilty of them. Now, Lord Doyle has gone up to the House of Lords. Despite this, Keir Starmer has taken away the Labour whip from him, but saying, well, I can't stop this process. Well, the House of Lords, and I think Jack Elson, the political editor of The Sun, have both established that Keir Starmer could have stopped this, but he didn't. And then you've got his mate, Peter Mandelson, best friends with America's most notorious paedophile. This association between Keir Starmer's Labour Party, Labour government, and paedophiles is getting to be rather sordid, isn't it?
It's sickening, and more, I'm sure, will come out from the whole Mandelson-Epstein affair. And this is yet another example of the Prime Minister surrounding himself with really people that show what poor judgment he has when it comes to choosing the people either in his team or his friends, who he's friends with. And again, the British people are fed up of sleaze, power, corruption, greed and sexual abuse of young girls and children in this case. So Keir Starmer knew of the associations between these two men and yet still appointed this man as a lord. He should have his lordship stripped. I don't buy it that there's no way to reverse that or whatever Starmer is hiding behind. Just do it. As always with Starmer, it's about having the will, and he doesn't have the will to stand up for what is right.
Well, talking of lords who don't deserve to be lords, Mandelson, that loathsome creature, still can call himself Lord Mandelson because he hasn't been stripped technically of his peerage. I think we should do this, but, all the great and the good going, oh, it's just not worth it. In other words, they still want to look after their own. And I tell you, Sarah, the people of Britain are sick to death of this.
They are. They're sick of people thinking that they are so wealthy and so well connected that they are above the law. And as a magistrate of 20 years, it absolutely sickens me that anybody thinks that they are above the law, no matter how powerful they may think they are.
Now, let's talk about Mandelson, because the Chagos Islands deal remains a mystery to most of us. Jonathan Powell, a man who's been high up in Labour governments since about 1722, as far as I can work out. He's always been there. He goes back to the Blair years. He's still there. He went on to Times Radio the other day. I'll play you the clip in a minute. In fact, I'll play you this now, and then I'll ask you the question I want to ask you. This is Jonathan Powell talking about you won't believe this, talking about the Chagos Islands on Times Radio, one of the most strategic territories on the face of the planet. Listen to what he had to say.
These are very tiny islands in the middle of the Indian Ocean where no one actually goes. So I don't think we should be too worried about losing that bit of territory. We're probably losing more to tidal erosion in the east coast than that.
I mean, he glossed over the nuance, Sarah, that on these tiny islands that no one goes to is arguably the most strategic military airstrip in the entire world. Diego Garcia, where planes from America and Britain and the West fly over the Far East and the Middle East, a very important matter of international security. So he just says, well, it's just islands that no one goes to. Now, this is what I wanted to ask you. I mean, what Powell said is a disgrace, if you ask me. The questions are now being asked. So what do we all think about the Chagos Islands? What do we all think about Starmer, Hermer, Mandelson and Powell's weird, manic enthusiasm to get rid of these islands and to give them to China best friend, Mauritius. We're all going, how weird, how weird. So people are now beginning to say, Baroness Kate Hu is leading the charge, saying we need to look very, very carefully at Peter Mandelson's communications on this. Was he, or was his enthusiasm for this deal something to do with him once again allegedly lining his own pockets? That's the question that's being asked.
Well, it's very, very concerning, isn't it? All of these men have been involved in this, and it will come out in the end because, again, the British people will not put up with it. They've heard that 35 billion pounds of their taxpayers' money potentially will be spent giving away the Chagos Islands to Mauritius. We know, as you said, Mauritius is very close to China. China, to us, is a hostile state. It is a state that we need to work with, but we certainly do not want to give away key strategic bases like the Diego Garcia land strip, as you described it. Absolutely key. The Americans know it's key. This is shocking words that we heard there from Jonathan Powell, and it shows a complete disregard, once again, by this government for putting the priority and the security of the British people at the top of their agenda, let alone what involvement and corruption and backhanders there may or may not have been concerning the likes of Mandelson.
Absolutely right. The reason questions are being asked, the reason Kate Hu is so interested is again, all of us are still sort of mystified about why this government, why Starmer, Hermer, Powell and Mandelson were so manically keen to get rid of these islands. They could have just left it. Don't mess with it. But they were desperate to get rid of them. And one explanation could be that Mandelson, as was allegedly his wont, was lining his own pockets. And if that...
Well, we will see, and we will also see what Andrew himself, just now, Andrew Windsor Mountbatten, was up to as trade envoy, won't we? I'm sure that will all come out too. I'm
glad I've got you on this. By the way, there's a school trans guidance, a new that I need to ask you about. But before, I'm glad you brought up the former Prince Andrew, because if you look at the evidence against him from the Epstein files, it literally is exactly the same as the evidence against Peter Mandelson, that he sent confidential British information, secret information, to Jeffrey Epstein, for money, basically. That's what Mandelson is alleged to have done. There's a massive, full criminal police investigation into Mandelson. His house has been raided, boxes have been taken. I did an item just earlier in the show where I talked to former Met Police Detective Mike Neville, and he is absolutely mystified why the police are not doing exactly the same to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Why are they dragging their heels? Do you fear, Sarah, it may be coppers showing deference to the royal family?
Well, I fear it might be, but I hope it isn't. And again, it comes back to my own legal background. Nobody should be above the law in this country, and whether Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has, I'm not quite sure which way round his name is now, but anyway, we all know who we're talking.
I think it's Mountbatten Windsor, yeah.
I think I said it the wrong way round.
The debate is whether or not it's got a hyphen in the middle of it, but who cares?
Who cares? Look, the point is that nobody should be above the law, and what concerns me is whether or not he's going to do a runner off to Dubai or another country. He will never, set foot himself, I'm sure, in the United States. But clearly, whilst he's in this country, I do not see, if there is enough circumstantial evidence to suggest that the police should be looking into his wheelings and dealings as trade envoy, then absolutely that should happen.
Yeah. So you would like him, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, to be criminally investigated like Peter Mandelson is?
If there's enough circumstantial evidence, then absolutely nobody should be above the law.
Yeah, well, I think there is, because the circumstantial evidence is exactly the same as that against Mandelson. Now, let me get your take on this, Sarah. This is just broken. It's been embargoed. School pupils will be allowed to change their gender at school, according to guidance just published by the Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson. This guidance that's just come out confirms that teachers must consult parents and proceed with caution, but should accept a child's request to transition socially. Is this really what we want to be going on in our schools?
This is frightening. It's frightening stuff. I am a leading voice in the cross-party group that is standing up against this puberty blocking trial that Wes Streeting is sanctioning at the moment. This is all tied up in the same issue. So basically, there is a huge movement at the moment in this government sanctioning the allowing young children to believe that they, as young as the age of 7 in this trial that I'm talking about, would want to change their sex. Who is putting ideas into these children's heads? And I know as a mother of 2 boys that going through puberty is not an easy time, but most of the time one's anxieties or one's concerns or one's issues with their own body, it kind of comes out in the wash in the end. But to prey on these young children, and I use that word on purpose, to prey on vulnerable young people who are having their heads filled with this nonsense as young as the age of 7, that they can change gender, that they should be a boy should become a girl and vice versa. What on earth is happening? And you know what? I blame the teachers for allowing this to happen, and the government is sanctioning this type of nonsense in our schools. It's got to stop.
Yeah, this is the guidance, the publication of which was delayed for some reason, states that before allowing a child to transition socially, I suppose that means not surgically. So what we're saying here,
correct.
What we're saying here is a little boy wants to wear a dress. Schools must consider any clinical advice the family has received and consult parents unless there is a genuine safeguarding reason not to. I don't think this should be happening at schools, because if some poor little boy really does want to wear a dress, the best welfare for him will be to advise him not to do it, because the other kids will make his life a nightmare. This is a nonsense, isn't it?
This is all about the very powerful transgender lobby, and it's about this government not standing up to that constant lobbying. They are a nasty bunch of people. The professor that is leading the trials in this, Simonoff, I think her name is, I heard her talk in Parliament at a meeting chaired by Wes Streeting, and I actually said to her, "You are one of the most frightening individuals I've ever had to listen to. These people are wanting to perform experiments on our children. This is state-sponsored child abuse."
It's extraordinary. So Sex Matters, the women's rights campaign group, have criticised this guidance, saying that it will encourage what they call a dangerous fairy tale. I think they're on the money, aren't they?
If I can just say one more thing as well,
Please.
we know that where this starts with the brainwashing of these children, this leads on to the use of hormones and puberty blockers, which then leads on to cross-sex hormones that are irreversible, that sterilize children, that will ruin their sex life for the rest of their life, that will ruin a girl's chance of ever having a child if later in life she, changes her mind or didn't ever want to go down this path. And I guarantee, Kevin, that this is going to be one of the biggest scandals yet again to break into this country. Give this 10 years time. There are going to be court cases. There are going to be so many children that feel that they were misled and effectively abused. And the state is allowing this to happen. And one more thing, they want evidence. They want evidence, but I can tell you, Wes Streeting and Keir Starmer, once again, they could put statutory legislation in place, which means that all of the data from the shocking Tavistock scandal could be made available, but they do not want to do it. Why don't they want to do that, Kevin? That's the question we should ask. These trials are not even needed. The data is out there. No more children should be abused in this way.
Yeah, I think it's extraordinary that the government seems to be sponsoring experiments, chemical experiments on children. It's unbelievable. What on earth do they think they're doing? Sarah, fantastic to talk to you. Always good to have you on the show. Thank you so much. Sarah Poshin there, Reform UK MP for Runcorn and Helsby. What do you think about some of the things she was saying, particularly that at the end? This is, as I said, this has just come out literally this afternoon, just before the show started, that pupils will, under new guidance published by Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary. Pupils will be allowed to change their gender at school. Is that a good idea? Or is it a recipe for disaster? What do you think? 03444991000. Still want to hear what you think about Jim Ratcliffe, what he said yesterday. Do you think it's offensive? Was it offensive when he said, you know, our economy can't work with 9 million people on benefits? That we're being colonised by vast numbers of migrants. You know, we can get our knickers in a twist about whether or not he should have used the word colonised, but he did point out that in 2020, the population of that 6 years ago, the population of this country was 58,000. It is now 58,000, that would be the day, 58 million, and it is now 70 million. So, you can call that colonisation, you can call that migrant-inspired massive population expansion, whatever you call it. We got a problem, haven't we? And Jim Ratcliffe was not wrong. I don't think he was remotely offensive. Let me know what you think. 03444991000. When we come back, we'll discuss something that I think is very offensive, and that is the council where I live, Camden, seems to be cracking down on people taking their dogs for a walk in the park, and critics say it's because Muslims don't really like dogs. Are the town hall tyrants where I live in Camden kowtowing to the Islamic community because they don't like dogs? A lot of people think that. It's causing a big row, trending on Twitter and everything. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
We genuinely are on resignation watch. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Labour MPs, they say, listen, Keir, your position is untenable. This is all about appointing that rat, Peter Mandelson, who faces a criminal investigation.
Can Keir Starmer survive the Mandelson scandal? We have breaking news for you. We've just been talking about, of course, Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff. We've now had another resignation from number 10. And Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, Tim Allen, has now also resigned. The plot is thickening. The noose is tightening.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, where I live, in leafy North London, the council is Camden Council. There's a massive row going on. It's been trending on Twitter and everything. Camden Council deleted, actually, a post that they made about increasing dog park restrictions in the area. It shared plans, the council shared plans on February the 11th, so a few days back, on extending dog rules in parks, banning even leashed dogs, even dogs on a lead, from play areas, sports pitches and picnic zones to keep places clean and safe. Well, look, critics, so this essentially is a council around where I live, big borough, Camden, left-wing council, of course. This essentially adds up to people with dogs, dog owners, being banned from taking their dogs to the park. And, of course, critics say, well, this is because Muslims, the Islamic community, aren't keen on dogs, so they're kowtowing to the Muslim community. That is the row that's going on. Let's talk to Andrew Allison from Popular Conservatives. Andrew, yeah, this is causing a hell of a row where I live. The council, as I say, essentially is proposing whole areas of parks will be, not only will you not be able to allow your dog to run free off the lead, which does apply to quite a lot of areas already, but you won't be allowed to take your dog at all. And what the critics are saying, this is because Muslims don't like dogs. This is, it's no wonder, as I keep saying in my hilarious tabloid way, it's no wonder that pet lovers in my area are barking mad about this.
Yeah, very good, Kevin. Of course, I've got no idea whether or not Camden Council are proposing these extra restrictions because Muslims don't like dogs. I couldn't possibly comment on that. But I think the main problem here, as I see it, is a complete lack of communication. I think that these public space protection orders are used far too liberally to prevent people from doing ordinary law-abiding things. And it strikes me that councils seem to have armies of bureaucrats who just seem to want to ban things and want to come up with restrictions against our lives. I would just wish they would get out of the way. But if Camden Council has got a good, legitimate reason for extending these PSPOs, then communicate it. Tell everybody about it. Go into detail. Write articles for local newspapers, go into radio and television and explain it to local residents. And you might actually get them on side, and you may also just stop the rumour mills going around as well.
And also I want to know, because I'm familiar with the whole area, what exactly does Camden Council, what do those town hall tyrants think that dog owners are doing wrong in parks? I go to a lot of these parks. Sadly, my little dog Chaz is no longer with us, but until a couple of months ago, I was among them regularly. I didn't see any sort of terrible behaviour on the part of dog owners. They obviously they let their dogs run free. Why attack? As people are saying, why attack the good old British tradition of taking your little dog for a walk in the park?
Indeed, and I agree with you. Responsible dog owners, and the vast majority of dog owners are responsible, wouldn't dream of letting a dog off a leash in a children's play park. It would be utterly irresponsible, and they simply wouldn't do that. Irresponsible dog owners will just completely ignore any restrictions that are there anyway. So it's not going to make any difference to them. I can't understand why they just want to place so many restrictions on people who have got no option but to walk their dogs in these parks, have they? I mean, I live in a little village in East Yorkshire, Kevin. There's plenty of open spaces. There's fields I can take a dog on it if I was a dog owner. But when you live in a city, there are fewer spaces where you can exercise your dog. And this is just making it a lot harder for responsible dog owners just to give their pets some decent exercise.
Indeed. Let me better give Camden Council their due. A spokesperson told us this consultation process is nothing new to what is already in place. Camden's existing public space protection order allows the council to take action against irresponsible dog owners, such as those who do not clear up after their dogs. Areas off limits to dogs include children's play areas, sports pitches and nature reserves, helping protect children and wildlife. We welcome residents' opinions at this consultation stage, which we will review and take into consideration when deciding whether to extend the order. I mean, the mystery there, for me, Andrew, is why they're doing this. Why are they extending the rules and regulations that apply to taking your dog for a walk? I don't get it. And as I say, critics think it may be cultural. You know, that around where I live, there's a pretty big Muslim Islamic community, and Muslims don't like dogs. It's well known. Try and get yourself an Uber and take your dog with you, and you'll experience a lot of trouble. I know, because I've been there myself. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do see exactly what you're saying. And I go back to what I said before as well, Kevin. It's a complete lack of communication. You said, in all fairness to Camden Council, they've issued this statement. Yes, because Talk has asked them for a statement. And you know, in all fairness to you, and you are a local resident, of course, personally, but they should not be issuing statements like this just because you've asked for it. They should be issuing these statements and being absolutely open and clear with local residents right from the beginning. And they're not. So it's a complete lack of communication.
Well, it put it this way, it's ham-fisted communication. They did put out this tweet on February the 11th mentioning possible new restrictions in parks. And that tweet, they say, or it is said, sparked accusations of cultural plots and attacks on British traditions, leading the council to delete it the following day on February the 12th without comment. So they put this tweet up saying, hey, we're going to crack down on dog walking. And the next day they took it down because they got a lot of criticism.
Well, the tweet didn't really say anything, though, did it?
I know.
I mean, you're right, it is ham-fisted communication, because the tweet didn't really explain anything. It didn't tell you, as a resident in Camden, Kevin, exactly why they were planning to do this.
Yeah, look, I mean...
It's total failure.
Yeah, and, you know, they're talking about ongoing complaints of fouling, you know, there are rogue dog owners who don't clear up after their dogs, but most people do. I don't perceive a sudden explosive crisis in dog fouling. And they also talk about, you know, complaints concerning dog bites. Again, you know, I mean, that's a perennial problem, but I don't see anything recently escalating on that front. I just don't understand what this is all about, but it does seem to me that it may be cultural. You know what these councils are like.
Yeah, and it could be, very much for that reason. But, you know, going back to dog fouling, Kevin, I mean, when I was growing up in the 70s and the 80s, I mean, there was dog poo all over the place. I mean, it used to be really bad. And now, as you say, I hardly ever see any at all. And you see owners taking their dogs for a walk with their bags and the little shovels, and they're cleaning it up after them. And I see that on a regular basis. So I can't even see how dog fouling is an issue, unless in one particular part of Camden it is.
Well, I don't think that there's been any explosion in irresponsible dog ownership around where I live, or indeed around the country. There's always going to be problems involving that, but I don't understand why Camden Council thinks suddenly it's this massive problem. If anybody's got any idea, give me a call, 03444 991000. Andrew, great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Andrew Allison there from Popular Conservatives on the strange business of dog walking bans by Camden Council. Why do you think they might have done it? I got my suspicions. I think I made them clear there. Now, when we come back, 4 in 10 migrants who are about to be or have been earmarked for deportation under the ridiculously, inaccurately named 1 in, 1 out scheme are going to challenge their deportation in the courts on the grounds that they're the victims of modern slavery. So another absurd undermining of the absurd 1 in, 1 out scheme. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, let's talk about the one-in, one-out scheme, an absolute joke that hasn't deterred anyone. I believe the current score, they call it one-in, one-out. I think we have deported to France something like 250, 260, might be slightly higher, migrants under the one-in, one-out scheme. And they've sent back here about over 300, so we're losing. But it doesn't really matter. I mean, in the time since they launched this ludicrous scheme, which hasn't deterred anyone, something like 12, 13,000 migrants have come across the channel illegally. So it doesn't deter anyone, just costs a lot of money. It's just stupid tokenism, isn't it? Anyway, worse than that, the poor, unfortunate migrants who get, as I say, earmarked for deportation under this scheme, returning to France whence they came, turns out that 4 in 10 of them are claiming to be victims of modern slavery, and they are taking their case to court, which means, of course, they won't get deported. So another reason to just laugh at the sick comedy of the one-in, one-out scheme. Let's talk to the former head of the UK Border Force, Tony Smith. Yeah, Tony, you know, you would be interested in deterrence. I mean, even at the height of its unpopularity, the one-in, one-out scheme was no deterrent, was it?
Not really, Kevin, no. The government, when they brought it in, this government said that they needed to test it in any case in the courts to make sure it stood up. And this story today is part of that. As you know, anybody coming by small boat can trump removal by claiming one of 3 protections. That's either asylum or human rights or modern slavery. There is provision in law to disallow asylum applications. That was planned for Rwanda. That's been used for this one because you come from a country, a safe third country, but not so for ECHR claims or for modern slavery. So this is a symptom of this problem we've got, Kevin, where actually the Home Office and the Border Force do not run the border. They do not have the authorities needed to send people back because ultimately you will be challenged by lawyers who will bring these actions in the form of a judicial review. And whilst all that is pending, then removals are suspended. And that, of course, as you know, simply adds to the pull factor.
Yeah, so we were told, you know, it was always a bizarre idea that I think it was out of every 17 migrants that came across the channel illegally, one poor sod would be chosen and say, sorry, you're the unlucky one, and you're going back under the one-in, one-out scheme, and then someone will come over here from France to replace you. In other words, numerically, it was never going to solve the migrant crisis because it was just supposed to be a sort of swap of foreigners scheme. So I always thought, well, that's going to be challengeable because any lawyer for that migrant will go, well, this palpably isn't fair. You know, why'd you choose my client? What about the other 16? So that was my query about whether or not the efficacy, the legal efficacy of this scheme. But what we're now learning is that out of all of the migrants who are chosen, the unlucky ones who are chosen for one-in, one-out, 4 in every 10 are claiming, no, you can't deport me, I'm a victim of modern slavery. And in fact, as we speak, and this happened yesterday, 16 of the one-in, one-out migrants went to the High Court. So in other words, it's another way that these immigration lawyers stop the government doing anything about getting rid of the migrants who are here illegally, isn't it?
Yeah, so if you come on a small boat today, Kevin, the chances of you getting detained is very, very small. But you're right, you may get picked. You may be unlucky enough. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Yes, exactly.
You, unluckily for you, have found yourself detained. The others are all pushed through Manston and onto immigration bail and into hotels and, you know, houses, wherever it is, on bail. But there are a few that are detained. And that's when they don't like that, obviously. And the lawyers come in and say, well, wait a minute, you can't detain this chap for one reason or another. And this is one of the things they've thrown up now is, you know, well, he's a victim of modern slavery in his own country. Modern slavery is only a temporary condition, Kevin. You might be in it for a bit, but you're not now because you're out of it. So really, the national referrals mechanism was reformed by the last government and again by this one. So, well, actually, you know, we'll have a look at this and make sure that you're not vulnerable to that anymore. But it's not grounds to allow you to stay in this country. And we did it for a lot of Albanians were claiming this, and that was overturned. So, but the problem we've got, Kevin, is that judicial review is constantly being used time and time again. Whenever any government tries to detain and deport somebody, there will be a lawyer waiting to go to find a judge or a court somewhere to trump that. And until we change that legal framework, Kevin, until we say, sorry, but you cannot claim protection if you've come from a safe third country, either on asylum or on human rights or for modern slavery. All of those things you could and should have claimed in France if you were really worried about it. You are going back to France. But I'm afraid we're not in that legal position. We got close to it under the last government with the Illegal Migration Act. That's been repealed now by the Border Security, Immigration and Asylum Act, which came into force in December. So that's been completely unpicked. So I'm afraid, you know, we're really back where we started from on a lot of this stuff.
It's such a joke, isn't it? And these, of course, you know, when you accuse these immigration lawyers, you always say to them, you don't want the migrant crisis to be solved, do you? Because you're making a load of money out of this. They go, how dare you? How dare you? It's like, oh, what do you think I was? Born yesterday. We know your game. Tony, great to speak to you, as always. Thank you so much. Tony Smith there, former head of the UK Border Force. Let's take a call, shall we? A couple of calls, maybe. Let's talk to Jill in Cornwall. Hello, Jill. You want to talk about what Jim Ratcliffe said? I don't disagree with him, do you?
I agree with everything he said. I'm sorry that he's gone back on what he said.
Well, actually, Jill, let's get that right. He hasn't. He has said that if what I said offended anyone, I'm sorry that they were offended. He hasn't retracted what he said. The government is acting like, you know, we demanded he apologised and he did apologise. Not really. No, he hasn't.
But he's right. He is right in what he's saying. We are being taken over. Whether you use that word or find another word that agrees with people, we are being taken over. When you've got, you know, Sharia courts in this country.
85 of them.
I know. And they whatever decision they come to, if they then get a judge in this country to ratify what they've, and then that means that judgment stands.
I know.
It stays.
Well, they're allowed to. They're allowed to basically issue legal judgments on marital disputes, property disputes, all sorts of affairs. You know, so you know, we have 85 Sharia courts operating in this country right now.
Why are they allowed to do that? We have law, we have a supposed, well, I question it myself sometimes, but we supposedly have a legal system in this country that everyone else has to abide by, and for a culture of people to come in and decide that they're going to have their own courts, their own decision makers, and ignore the fact that we've got a justice system. I'm sorry, he is right. He is right.
Well, here's the deal, Jill. He's 100% right when he talks about 9 million people being on benefit, many of them, of course, migrants who arrived here illegally and legally. That is not sustainable economically. He's absolutely right on that. And I think he's right about what he called the colonisation of Britain. Now, people are objecting to the use of that word. I mean, I can see there might be a better word, but I don't really care. We know what he meant, and I think he's right.
Well, exactly. I'm sorry if it's the word that's upset people. Yes, all right, forget the word. Pick another word that means the same thing.
That's my view.
He is right in what he is saying. And those people that are saying, you know, he should be ignored and all the rest of it, are the very people that to be perfectly honest, are happy with the fact that this country appears to be, we do appear to be being taken over. I am uncomfortable with what's happening in this country. I'm uncomfortable with the fact that illegals can fight the decision that we make regarding whether or not they stay. And the people that they use, the solicitors that they use, we pay those solicitors to fight us.
Yeah.
I mean, where is the sense in that?
What Jim Ratcliffe said, I could see this from my switchboard. Ever since he said it yesterday, the story kind of broke while I was on air. It has struck a chord with millions of people in Britain. Millions of people absolutely agree with him. And I'll tell you what makes me furious, Jill, is the Starmer and Lammy acting as if he said the most outrageous thing. People are so offended by this. He's got to apologise. Absolute rubbish, codswallop. People agree with Jim Ratcliffe, and I'm glad that you do too, Jill. I agree with him. Maybe colonisation, colonised, there might be a better word for it. But hey-ho, we know what he meant, and what he meant is true. Jill, thank you so much. Excellent call as always. Jill in Cornwall. Let's talk to Herbie in Harrow. You want to talk about... hi, Herbie. You want to talk about Andrew. It's about time the police got their skates on, isn't it?
Oh, come on, Kevin. What's going on a daily basis is a damn nightmare. This country's completely falling apart from top to bottom. What more can we get other than the police saying and choosing who they want to go to? If it was you and I, Kevin, we'd be out. Oh, God, we'd be in prison already, I should think, by now.
Exactly. No, but I mean,
absolutely.
Here's the deal. What's strange about it, as I say, is the evidence, the alleged evidence. You've got to sort of say the Epstein files, I mean, chances are they're genuine, but they've got to verify them. But we've seen the emails, the alleged emails that were sent by Peter Mandelson and indeed by Andrew, Prince Andrew as he was then. Basically, both those men, if the allegations are true, basically took secret British government information and sent it to Jeffrey Epstein because Jeffrey Epstein was allegedly lining both of their pockets. So the allegations against both men are uncannily the same. Uncannily similar, and the police, to be fair, really got their skates on with Mandelson. Within seconds, seemed. There they were removing boxes from his house, announcing a full criminal investigation. Yet, with Andrew, the King's brother, they seem to be much more reticent about getting going, announcing that, criminal prosecutors are assessing whether or not claims made about blah, blah, blah. Why are they being so much slower about Andrew than they are about Mandelson? Could it be that this is good old-fashioned British deference to the royal family?
Yeah, but Kevin, the thing is that Andrew would do himself a big favour by going and facing the music. It can't get any worse than what it's already got. Face the music, take the punishment, and get it over and done with. Then nobody can knock you, the King, or anybody else. Go and face the music for what it's worth, and take what punishment comes to you, and get on with your life from there on, and let the royal family get on with their life as well. Go and do the decent thing and surrender.
Yeah. Andrew is the key to the royal family. Right now has a serious existential problem. It is teetering on the edge thanks to Andrew. Andrew could do the decent thing, hand himself in, make a full statement, and the royal family would be okay. But as long as he just hides away and refuses to say anything, the royal family falls further and further into deep trouble. Herbie, great call as always. Always good to talk to you. Thank you very much. Herbie in Harrow. Let's go to break now, and next up we'll find out what's going on in the wonderful world of sport with Deputy Head of Sport at The Sun, Dean Scoggins. That next. Stick around.
We genuinely are on resignation watch. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Labour MPs, they say, listen, Keir, your position is untenable. This is all about appointing that rat, Peter Mandelson, who faces a criminal investigation.
Can Keir Starmer survive the Mandelson scandal? We have breaking news for you. We've just been talking about, of course, Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff. We've now had another resignation from Number 10. And Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, Tim Allen, has now also resigned. The plot is thickening. The noose is tightening.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's do sport now with Head of Sport at The Sun, Dean Scoggins. Dean, Manchester United, Jim Ratcliffe, your ace reporter Sam Luckhurst has got a good line on this, that his comments about Britain being colonised by migrants, and the economy going down the hill because of that, have caused trouble at the Reds, at United. One senior player, apparently the players themselves are angry, saying he had no words in response. United have got 17 overseas players in their first squad. So his comments are not going down too well at Old Trafford.
No, not very well. And he doesn't speak very often, Sir Jim, but when he does, then obviously it has quite an impact. And yeah, look, I mean, regardless of your politics, of your views on any of this, Manchester United are a global football club. They have international players that, for example, one of their academy graduates, Kobbie Mainoo, is of Ghanaian heritage. The centre-back, Aidan Heaven's mum, is Ghanaian as well. And so, it's not that it's not that you have to stand one side or the other with this. It's that he represents Manchester United Football Club. And it should be said that Man United, to be clear, are work with ethnic minority groups in their community and all that sort of stuff. So it's just a difficult position for him to put them in.
I suppose if all migrants were like the ones who play for Man United, we wouldn't really have a problem. If they're all earning about 300 grand a week, that wouldn't be trouble for this country. But interesting stuff. Jim Ratcliffe causing problems at Man United. I think, this is just speculation, but he didn't retract what he said today, but he did apologise if what he said offended anyone.
Yeah, it was a non-apology apology.
Yeah, there's been a climb down. I suspect it might be Man United suggesting that he sort of toned it down.
Yeah, Man United released a statement and about its, priding itself on being inclusive and welcoming. I mean, I don't think that changes, his comments as such, but as a football club, they are, brilliant with all this sort of stuff. But Sir Jim hasn't done them any favours today. I think it's fair to say.
I think he came to. I don't think he cares what he said.
No, that's true.
It's like I said, he's the richest man in the country. I can't really say it on a family show, but basically he's got F-off money, hasn't he?
Yes.
Let's talk about Thomas Tuchel, the England manager. He has agreed to stay on as our national coach until 2028, Euro 2028.
Yeah, I mean, he's agreed to stay on. The timing of this is interesting, I think, to say the least. In about 10 minutes' time, England's Nations League draw will take place, and I know nobody cares at all about the Nations League, at least until the World Cup's finished. But, we can say he's staying on until Euro 2028, but if we go out in the group stages, I don't think he'll be staying to Euro 2028, do you?
So you get sacked.
Absolutely. I mean, Charlie Wyatt is our reporter on this. He's there tonight at the Nations League draw. He will get to talk to Thomas Tuchel tonight, so we'll update this as we go through the night. England, obviously, friendlies against Uruguay and Japan next month, and Tuchel's spoken greatly about, it's a dream job. He'll lead England to the World Cup. Croatia, Ghana and Panama are our group stage games, so we should get beyond the group. But I just find it incredible timing. I mean, look, Man United.
Strange, isn't it?
Yeah, Man United are looking for a new manager. Read into that what you will. Are England, you know, sort of nailing him down?
Spurs,
So those, Spurs are looking
on the
for a
lookout.
manager. Absolutely. How long will Pep Guardiola hang around at Manchester City? I do think there's a little bit of, you know, let's calm down the Tuchel chat here by saying he's ours until 2028. But he'll only be England manager in 2028 if we go beyond the quarter-finals, semi-finals of this World Cup.
It's generally, though, I think, a good thing for England.
Oh, he's done a fantastic job, yeah. And they're playing good stuff, good manager. And look, I think we're in very good hands as it goes to the World Cup. But as we know, that's not always been the case. It doesn't
always go according to plan, does it? Let's talk about Raheem Sterling. Of course, he was let go by Chelsea, even though he still had a contract for 325 grand a week. And the club and him agreed, look, why don't you just go and find you another club? We won't hold you to the contract. Going to join Dutch club Feyenoord.
Yeah, a great exclusive. This from Jack Rosser, who's led the way on this Sterling story all the way along. And yeah, I mean, Chelsea exile, which was over a year. He was on £325,000 a week at Chelsea.
Doing nothing.
Doing
It's
not
amazing,
very much.
isn't it?
So, you know, I would, you know, look, when you're there and you're on 325 grand a week, do you care very much? I'm not quite sure whether you care about playing or not, but fair play to Sterling. He doesn't want to end his career by not playing. So
he's only 31, isn't he?
Exactly, and it wasn't that long ago, you know, 82 caps for England. It wasn't that long ago that he was still in the conversation for England. He won't be now, but Robin Van Persie's manager at Feyenoord, so that's another name to throw in there. So let's hope he has a bit of a swan song, Sterling.
What's the Sterling said? As a free agent, I've had for the first time in a long time the opportunity to control the next step in my career. I mean, you know, he needs to get his confidence back, but he was a great player, and something happened. What happened?
Yeah, I think that the change in the Premier League happened, and, you know, as he got injured and in front of his eyes. You know, there's a lot of the wingers now. He's always been quick, but a lot of these wingers are quick and very, very physical now that play in the Premier League.
He's reasonably small.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So look, he's still a top player. It's just that he was playing at top clubs, Manchester City, Arsenal, Chelsea, and I don't think he wanted to step down to the Championship, but I think this is a decent move for him.
Yeah, there was some speculation that he might just go just down the road and join my club Fulham. It would have been very welcome, but after our brilliant performance at Man City last night, he probably thought, no, I know, I'll go to Holland instead.
Yeah, they had their tummy tickled a little bit last night, didn't they?
Thanks for letting us off in the second half. Dean Scoggins, Deputy Editor of Sport of the Sun, thank you so much. Now, when we come back after the news, I'm going to be talking to powerhouse pub landlord, broadcaster and writer Adam Brooks about the big stories of the day, so you don't want to miss that. Stick around, folks.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is the news. No, it's not actually. Our bulletin will be coming up a bit later, so you're stuck with me. Let's get going then. This hour, in a little while, our own Talk reporter, Kieran Galpin, will be in the studio to talk about my friend, the nurse Jennifer Melley, who is furious after meeting Equality Secretary Bridget Phillipson yesterday. Jennifer, of course, is the nurse who was suspended for more than 2 years because she refused to call a 6-foot-tall convicted paedophile prisoner she or her female prisoners, even though he was a bloke. So for some reason she was suspended. She's had a meeting with Bridget Phillipson about that, and it didn't go well. So Kieran talked to Jennifer. We'll talk all about that in just a little while. Kinsey Schofield joined me towards the end of the hour for the latest on the royal scene. And so lots still to come. Also, give us a call, 03444991000. Lots to talk about. But let's get cracking. Broadcaster and writer, pub landlord Adam Brooks joins me now. Hi, Adam.
How you doing, Kev? All right, mate?
Yes, I'm very good. Now, let's get your take first on Jim Ratcliffe. He's saying, I'm sorry my immigration claims offended some people. This has been interpreted by Keir Starmer and David Lammy, the Labour government, as a triumph, because Starmer pompously immediately reacted to what Jim said yesterday by saying, "That's what he said is offensive and wrong and he must apologise." What he said was that Britain has been colonised by migrants who are claiming so much benefit, it's ruinous for the economy. That's what he said. 9 million people on benefit, many of them migrants who arrived here legally and illegally. They're all claiming, or too many of them are claiming benefits. That is unsustainable economically. And he said, we've been colonised. And the reason for that, he said, well, in 2020, the population of this country was 58 million. 6 years on, it's 70 million. Now, a lot of people taking offence at the word or objecting to the word colonise. There may be better words for it, but the essence of what he said, I think millions of Brits agree with. Do you?
100%. I was actually on air on a rival station when that sort of broke that story. And I was sort of cheering him on. Thank God we've got someone that is talking like the average man and woman in the street, in the pub, you know, in the black taxis. This is what people are worried about. We've got whole areas of this country where communities have not assimilated, not integrated. You can go to certain parts of the country, even Whitechapel, places like that in London, and not hear English being spoke from one end of a high road to another. Now, I get the train home very late at night sometimes, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing or in a racist way. I am the only white person on that carriage, but that's not the problem. The problem for me is that many of them do not speak English. I'm just hearing they've got their music loud. It's often a language I do not understand. And you sit there sometimes and think, you know, I'm a stranger in my own city. And what really makes me laugh is how Keir Starmer, he weaponised this quickly. His advisors must have told him to jump on this. How dare the Prime Minister of this country tell a private citizen what they can and what they cannot say?
Exactly right,
Okay?
exactly
Right?
what I said. Who the hell does he think he is?
No disrespect. Whatever I say on this now, if an MP or someone tries to tell me I've got to backtrack or apologise, the two words I say to them, one starts with F and the next one starts with R.
You mean second word off? Yeah, I mean, but also Jim Ratcliffe. We should listen to Jim Ratcliffe. He's pretty much the richest man in the country. You know, he's clearly a very intelligent man with a very interesting take on what's going wrong in this country. For the government to say, or for Starmer to say, you should apologise, who the hell does he think he is? This is Jim Ratcliffe's honest opinion of what's going wrong in this country, and the government today are acting like Keir Starmer's demand for an apology has indeed elicited a sorry from Jim Ratcliffe. It hasn't. He's just said, if anyone was offended, I didn't want to offend anyone, I'm sorry if they got offended. He is not retracting what he said, and millions of people agree with him, you included, Adam, obviously.
I'm a bit gutted that he has sort of apologised, if I'm honest.
He hasn't. He's only. If you're offended, I didn't want to offend you.
No,
hasn't retracted what he said.
He should have doubled down, because a few facts here, and people, you know, my taxi friends that maybe are listening to this in their cars right now. This is the sort of thing we speak about. In certain boroughs of London, 60-70% of the social housing is made up of foreign-born people. We've got a month-long wait for a GP. Yeah, if you come over on a dinghy, you get your own private one at one of these air bases. We've not got enough school places. We've not got enough prisons. Okay, so the population increase. I think it was someone on your channel, Simon Jordan, said, well, our population increase is unrivaled in the West.
Anywhere ever. It's extraordinary. I mean, as Jim said, 2020, 58 million. When I was a kid, the population was, I think it was supposed to be 50 million or something. Anyway, 2020, it's still only 58 million. 6 years later, it's 70 million. Now, you might not want to call that colonisation, but that is extraordinary population expansion.
You say it's not colonisation, yet we've got councillors.
I didn't say that. I said you might not want to call it that.
Sorry, mate. It's the lag with the computers. Look, in certain boroughs, Tower Hamlets, we've got councillors that are based in Bangladesh. Okay. Now, if that is not colonisation, I don't know what is. What other country would allow, people in their authorities to live abroad and rule over a certain part of London? This is unbelievable. But it's not that. It's the language. You go to some of these places, they're not speaking English. We've got mayors and politicians in Birmingham that are running on tickets of Gaza instead of their local matters, not roads, not trees, not whatever housing, on Gaza. You cannot tell me that's not colonisation. We've got a serious problem of integration and assimilation in this country.
So you have no problem with the word colonisation. I think a lot of other people don't either. Listen, Adam, I've got to get you on this. This is breaking news. Extraordinary story. We've been covering elements of it, but this has just happened. Now, the story we've been doing is a woman called Dame Antonio Romeo is about to be imminently appointed as the first ever female cabinet secretary. Good news, about time a woman had that job. So that job, it makes you the most senior civil servant in this country. It's a massive role, massive job. So she's about to be appointed. And Starmer is accused of not vetting her properly. A guy called Lord MacDonald, Simon MacDonald, who used to be her boss at the Foreign Office, he went on to Channel 4 News last night and said, I've been trying to say to the government, you've got to diligently vet this woman. I'm available. I keep offering my services. They're ignoring me. So something is going on here. Now, Antonio Romeo will be replacing the current cabinet secretary is a guy called Chris Warmold. Now, he's just stood down with immediate effect after just a year in the office. Usually cabinet secretaries stay there for several prime ministers, let alone just 1 year. This is all part of Starmer's reset, getting rid of his inner circle. So Chris Warmold, we think fairly reluctantly, has stepped down to make way for this woman, Dame Antonia Romeo, that people are saying has not been vetted properly, just like Peter Mandelson wasn't when Starmer appointed him to be Washington ambassador. But here's the thing, this has just emerged. The Times is reporting that Chris Warmold, this is your money and mine, Adam, will be given a payoff of £250,000. This is just so Starmer can say, I'm getting rid of my people, I'm having a reset. That's going to cost us £250,000. That's a disgrace.
Brilliant. And do you know what? It's just so he can have a woman to shut up this big boys club rhetoric that's going around. Look, for me, it's pretty obvious that Keir Starmer has no time for women in politics at all. I tweeted Rosie Duffield the other day, and she really wasn't very complimentary in the man at all about Keir Starmer. But this lady that is taking over, I'm told, is a trans, I'm going to say lunatic. She's a
trans fan.
A trans fan. But, the pronoun police, suddenly, I don't care who the best person is for the job. If it's a woman, great. But they're just shoehorning a woman in there to shut people up. Yeah. For me, that's very patronising and demeaning for women.
Yeah, it is. And she's got a kind of fairly dubious background. When she was our consul in New York, she was accused of bullying, harassment and fiddling her expenses. Very important to stress she was cleared. But her boss then, this guy Simon MacDonald, who's now Lord MacDonald, he went on to Channel 4 News yesterday to say, I've been trying to get in touch with the government, to get in touch with Starmer and say you need to do due diligence on Chris Warmold. Meanwhile, stepping down after a year, will be is in fact the shortest serving cabinet secretary in history. Now, this is all so that Keir Starmer could say, I've got rid of Morgan McSweeney, I've got rid of Tim Allen, my head of communications, and now I'm getting rid of the Cabinet Secretary. I am resetting, you see? I'm resetting. I'm getting rid of my inner circle. It's going to be a whole change of direction. OK, fine, big deal. No one cares. But we now learn that for Keir Starmer's vanity, so he can say I'm resetting my government, it's going to cost us 250,000 quid to pay off Chris Wormold. We are sick of this misuse of taxpayers' money, all these Westminster types with their snouts in the trough. It is nauseating, isn't it?
Yeah, and do you know, look, she will be in office until the next scandal, and that could be tomorrow. Do you know how many days it's been since a Labour child sex scandal?
Well, it was probably yesterday, I would have thought. Oh, go on.
None.
Yeah.
None, because I believe a mayor was prosecuted today or found guilty because her son, there was something, a cover-up with a rape case.
Oh, great.
A Labour mayor. So, look, there is a real disturbing pattern going on right now with Labour, sex crimes, friends of people that are perpetrating sex crimes. And as a Labour lord said last week or at the weekend, New Labour have a serious problem with perversion and paedophilia. And I hope anyone that comes to vote Labour in the next elections, locals, whether it be general elections or locals, just remember that. This is a Labour peer saying that New Labour have got a problem with perversion.
Let's put some meat on those bones. I mean, basically, what we're talking about is, of course, the ongoing scandal of Peter Mandelson, best pals with America's most notorious paedophile, a convicted paedophile he kept a friendship with when he was in government, and kept secret when he got appointed to be our ambassador in Washington. So there's your paedophile scandal there. And now we've got this guy who used to be Keir Starmer's chief of communications, head of communications, a guy called Matthew Doyle, who, of course, was useless at the job, got turfed out, and now was, of course, in the manner of these things, made a lord. He's gone up to the Lord, and it turns out, it was in all the papers, Starmer claims he didn't know, God knows why, that he had this mate who was an accused paedophile up in Scotland, who's running to be a councillor up there. Matthew Doyle went up and campaigned for him, even though he knew he had been accused of paedophilia, child sex abuse. He was subsequently found guilty of it. And so Keir Starmer was told, you can't let this guy become a lord now. Keir Starmer said, well, I'm afraid that because I've already appointed him, I can't stop the process. It's not technically possible, but I have removed the Labour whip from him. Well, it turns out the House of Lords said that's entirely not true. You can stop the process. So Keir Starmer, it strikes me, is lying again to get his mate into the House of Lords. Again, our money, 350 quid a day. It's a damn racket, isn't it, Westminster?
It's a complete racket, and that's why I wouldn't want any part of it. You know, I've got people offering me political avenues, let's say, but I don't want to be part of a UK political system that is so corrupt, is full of what I believe are paedophile apologists. It's just not right for me right now. There's nothing I could do to change that, and I don't want to be tarnished and go forward in a system that is literally a swamp. So we need to do the same as what Donald Trump is doing in America and drain that swamp, because there is a lot of creatures in our political landscape.
You're so right. Yeah, exactly right. You're a father, aren't you, Adam? You got kids?
3 kids.
OK, what do you reckon on this? Last question to you. This has happened in the last couple of hours. The Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson, has released her new guidance on schools, and school pupils will be allowed to change their gender at school, according to guidance published today by Bridget Phillipson. The guidance confirms that teachers must consult parents and proceed with caution, but should accept a child's request to transition socially. So if some little boy says, I want to wear a dress, the teachers have to say yes. This is mad. This is madness, isn't it?
Disgusting. We have teachers, doctors and people in authority all the way up to the top in Labour that are facilitating child abuse. That's what I believe this is. I have a 6-year-old that thinks she's a different cartoon character every other week. She would not be able to say, I want to be a boy. We are allowing some parents, I believe, and teachers to persuade kids that there's something else.
Yeah.
Let's remember with the Cass report, many of the kids that were put to these gender clinics were autistic or had autism or mental health issues. That is rife throughout the trans community. A lot of these people have got mental issues. They should be helped for that and not encouraged to cut off body parts or change their so-called gender. You cannot become a woman if you're a man. You cannot do it the other way around either. And we've got to stop pandering to these lies and this mental illness and start maybe helping these people. Because let me just tell you now, if my kids come home and said, oh, there's someone in my class and we have to do this and we have to do that, that boy is allowed to change in our changing room, Daddy, like if my girl said that, I'd pull them out of school. Yeah. I would put them out of school and I would organise a huge protest outside that school when the kids are not there, because this is child abuse.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, you know, they took a transition socially, which means not surgically. But, you know, some little boys say, I don't know, 12, 13 years old, said, I want to wear a dress to school. Can you imagine what that will be like for that kid? It'll be a nightmare. It'll be an absolute nightmare. Teachers, parents, adults should not be encouraging this nonsense.
No, but we've got people in Hollywood. If you look at the rate of some of these Hollywood stars and all their trans kids, let's remember this is a trend. It's a mental health problem and it's a trend. Some of these parents are treating these trans kids like the chihuahua. Remember when everyone had to have a chihuahua at the school gate? Yeah. The trans kid is the new chihuahua. And this, look, we've got to put an end to this. And I'm sickened that we've got Bridget Phillipson allowing this, and we've got Wes Streeting allowing the
experimentation on 250 kids.
That is abuse. And they're paying the kids to do that as well.
What is wrong with this government? What is wrong with it?
History will not treat them kindly, Kev.
I don't think they will. Adam, it's great to talk to you as always. Thank you so much for your time. That's Adam Brooks. He's right. What is wrong with this government? This experiment they want to do on 250 kids to see what effect these puberty drugs will have on them going forward. Well, it'll be bad, I would imagine. You can't just take kids. Well, it might go wrong, it might be bad. Let's see what happens. These are children. You really want to submit children to chemical experiments to see what happens? I mean, this is 2026. Really? 03444991000. Let's go to break now. When we come back, we're going to talk about Jennifer Melley. She's the nurse that was suspended for 2 years by the NHS because she refused to address a male paedophile by his preferred female pronouns ludicrously. He called her the N-word, lunged her, tried to attack her. She's the one who got punished. She's back at work, or she's been exonerated at long last. But yesterday she had a meeting with the Equalities Secretary. Bridget Phillips is not only Education Secretary, she's Equalities Secretary, about trans issues concerning the NHS, and let's say that meeting did not go well. Our reporter, talk reporter Kieran Galpin, spoke to Jennifer yesterday. We'll play you that interview and we'll talk to Kieran next, so stay tuned.
We genuinely are on resignation watch. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Labour MPs, they say, listen, Keir, your position is untenable. This is all about appointing that rat, Peter Mandelson, who faces a criminal investigation.
Can Keir Starmer survive the Mandelson scandal? We have breaking news for you. We've just been talking about, of course, Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff. We've now had another resignation from number 10. And Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, Tim Allen, has now also resigned. The plot is sickening. The noose is tightening.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
In a little while, we'll find out what's in the pages of Britain's favourite newspaper, The Sun, tomorrow, with night news editor John Lucas, and also to end the show, to bring down the curtain on another blockbuster drive time show. Kinsey Schofield from the West Coast will be joining us to discuss the Royals. But for now, let's talk to our own reporter, Kieran Galpin, who's been with my friend, nurse Jennifer Mellay. Now, you spoke to Jennifer. Jennifer is the nurse who's been suspended for more than 2 years for refusing to call a convicted male paedophile by his preferred female pronouns. It's no big deal for her. She's just a committed Christian and she didn't feel comfortable with that. And for that, the NHS backed him, even though he called her the N-word and tried to hit her, backed him and suspended her. Welcome to Planet NHS. Welcome to the show, Kieran. Before we talk, this is Kieran's report. This is Kieran's interview with Jennifer Mellay.
Do you feel deceived by how Labour has treated this case, by how Labour's treated the guidance on trans people in the workplace?
I feel quite really disappointed in the way that this is being kept for so long, you know, and lying to the public and lying to us as well, the Darlington nurses, you know, Sandy Peggy, and having to face this traumatic ordeal for over 2 years. And after the Supreme Court ruling in April last year, we were hoping that at least some guidelines are out there, but today, hearing that from the government and from Bridget is very disappointing and deflating. You know, the nurses that are looking forward to safeguard them in their workplace, that is like walking on eggshells at the moment. Going to work, people are afraid going to work. Some of them are coming off the profession now. The Equality and Human Rights Commission guidelines, they need to make sure that it covers everything. So it does not just work for a certain group of workforce environments. This is something that is unified, you know, in all sectors. It doesn't segregate just the NHS alone or these other workforce environments. This is the reality they cannot hide for. Black is black, white is white, green is green, and we need to face reality. Biology is real. A man is a man and a woman is a woman. God created them male and female, Genesis 1:27, and that's the word of God.
I love Jennifer. Kieran's in the studio. Now, what you were talking to her after she'd had a meeting with the Equality Secretary, Bridget Phillipson. And Jennifer, as I understand it, was seeking assurances, first of all, that no one will have to go through what she's gone through ever again, insofar as if a medically qualified nurse or doctor does not want to address a trans person by their preferred female pronouns, that's their right. And she's also looking for safe spaces for women and an end to the trans madness that predominates on Planet NHS. But she was very disappointed with that meeting with Bridget Phillipson. Why?
So on the first point you made about pronouns, Bridget Phillipson did assure her on that issue that she would be, she wouldn't be suspended, and nurses like her wouldn't be suspended for misgendering. It was the second issue that she raised that she did not get the assurance she wanted, and that was the key point that came out of this meeting with Bridget Phillipson.
Sorry, why do they call it misgendering when you're actually calling someone what their real gender is? You know, so you got some bloke in a dress who's a man, and if you say you're a man, that misgenders them. Well, no, it doesn't. It's absolutely accurate. It's a stupid word, but anyway, at least she got somewhere on that. What was the other bone of contention in this meeting?
Well, so the Equality and Human Rights Commission was supposed to be updating its guidance on single-sex spaces, on how businesses were going to act in light of the Supreme Court ruling that said biological sex was relevant, was sex. And what Bridget Phillipson said was that actually in this case it was not going to be extended to workplaces. So basically places like the NHS that have been sitting on the Supreme Court ruling, have been sitting on this guidance, could still allow transgender people into toilets and could still not protect single-sex spaces, which is what Jennifer Melley wants and what people like the Darlington nurses want to happen.
Yeah, and doesn't that fly in the face of the Supreme Court ruling?
Well, that's the thing, really. We should have clarity already. We've had clarity from the Supreme Court ruling, but what these businesses want is more guidance from the Equalities and Human Rights Commission. So they're basically waiting for clarity when really they should have clarity already from that Supreme Court ruling in April of last year.
And if I know Jennifer, and I do, she won't be giving up the fight?
No, absolutely not. I mean, she came across yesterday, she was disappointed, she said, she was deflated, she said, you could hear the anger in her voice as she said things like, you know, nurses are still walking on eggshells.
Yeah, that was very powerful, I agree with you that, yeah.
Yeah, but she said absolutely they're going to still be fighting this case, and Christian Concern as well, who've picked up Jennifer's case and have fought for similar cases, have said that absolutely they're going to be fighting cases like this in the future.
Does it strike you, because it does strike me, that Bridget Phillipson is a representative of so many people in the government, in the authorities, in organisations like the NHS, who actually don't like the Supreme Court ruling and are doing their best to rail against it, dragging their heels on what it demands. What it demands is that there must be safe spaces for women in hospitals.
Absolutely, I think she's fudging it, basically. She doesn't want to upset trans activists, she doesn't want to upset gender ideology. She's trying to play both sides when ultimately she can't do that. Both sides can't be played. She's going to upset people, and she has to choose whether she wants to go with the gender ideology or whether she wants to go with protecting people like Jennifer Melley or the Darlington nurses.
Absolutely. Good reporting, Kieran, well done. And the fight continues. Jennifer Melley, disappointing meeting with Bridget Phillipson. It strikes me that most people go for a meeting with Bridget Phillipson end up being disappointed. I know I would be. Anyway, thank you, Kieran Galpin. Great work. When we come back, well, let's find out what is in the pages of Britain's favourite newspaper, The Sun, tomorrow morning with John Lucas, the night news editor. So that next, stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Night News editor at The Sun, John Lucas, is in the studio. Welcome, John. Let's go through some of the stories you're going to be covering tomorrow. The first one, by the way, great story in The Sun this morning. It's something we've been focusing on. This 12 million quid that Andrew handed to Virginia Giuffre, essentially hush money to keep the secrets of paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, to keep the secrets of what happened to his victims. The royal family paying that hush money is a terrible, terrible look. And today, brilliantly, your paper revealed just where that money came from. We always suspected the Queen paid most of it, and indeed she did. And the then Prince Charles paid the rest of it. Now, before we get to this great news story you've got on Andy, I mean, don't you think that it is that the King owes us an apology for that hush money payment?
Well, look, there was a huge amount of work went into that story, and you know, just trying to ascertain exactly where all the money came from. And it turned out, because we always thought he was going to try and flog this ski chalet in the Alps, but actually what he did was he went round with a begging bowl, and he scrounged the cash from his family members. And hasn't paid any of it back. And it's, you know, it's a story, it has gone all the way around the world. I mean, you know, he has always stuck, as we understand it, what he said publicly is exactly what he said to his family, is I'd never done anything wrong, I'm completely innocent. And, you know, he was the Queen's favourite son, and they've all I'm sure in good faith tried to bail him out. But we know, from what we're seeing in these emails, he's got lots and lots of questions to answer.
Yeah, they shouldn't have bailed him out. They should never have paid the amount, that 12 million quid. I know why they did it. You know, they're trying to protect their own. You know, the Queen loved her son Andrew. You know, she was the only person in the world that did, but she did, and we know why she did it. However, it was a mistake. It was a rare mistake by Her Majesty. It was a mistake by Prince Charles. It was a mistake by the royal family. They effectively handed over 12 million quid to keep Jeffrey Epstein's sordid secrets, and they should never have done it. But you've got an amazing development on this tomorrow, John. That the woman seen, you know, that picture of Andrew on his kneeling down with that woman underneath him, redacted. The identity of that woman at Jeffrey Epstein's New York mansion turns out to be one of his sex trafficking victims.
Yeah, very, very creepy. So this has emerged at a hearing at the US Congress where their Attorney General, Pam Bondi, had to answer questions, and it's very, very tense and fiery
shouting at each
exchange
other.
Because essentially the US politicians are able to see all these unredacted documents now, so they know the names of everybody involved, and they're saying to this she's a law enforcement officer essentially, that you need to start arresting and questioning people, and she was firing back and making bizarre comments about, well, look how well the stock market's doing. Completely and utterly bizarre and mad. But what came out of it was the confirmation that this woman is a suspected victim of trafficking. Now, the further we've had today is an intervention from Gordon Brown, ex-PM Gordon Brown.
Yeah, it's just that big story.
In the New Statesman, of all places.
Where else?
talking about the Lolita Express that Epstein was running. Now, when we talk about that Lolita Express, it's not necessarily one plane. It's it's the same as Air Force One. It refers to his fleet of jets. And Gordon Brown says, look, it's obvious he was bringing women, or girls or whatever, into Britain as well. We've seen in the files that Andy was showing friends of Epstein, if you want to put it like that, around royal venues. And Gordon Brown saying it's time that British police actually, they're already looking at the misconduct in public office issue, but it's time you need to go and speak to Andrew, who's a close friend of this man who clearly is the world's worst ever paedophile sex trafficker. Are you not going to go and speak to him?
Yeah.
So I think the pressure is mounting on the police to do just that, and we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, we've been covering that story today, the police's strange lethargy on this. It's, you know, you have to say this is all allegations, and you're going to have to verify what is in the Epstein files to make sure it's all genuine. But the police have got, haven't they, exactly the same evidence against Andrew that they have against Peter Mandelson. Now, with Peter Mandelson, you know, it was like greased lightning. Within seconds, they seemed to be boxes out of his house announcing a criminal investigation with exactly the same evidence against, alleged evidence against Andrew. They're not, you know, they're dragging their heels. So Gordon Brown's right. They need to get cracking. They need to interview.
And every day we're finding out more and more. It's you know, there's always so many threads to this. Who knows what is going to be the next things come out.
Yeah, great story this morning, and more fascinating revelations tomorrow in tomorrow's Sun. Jim Ratcliffe, he's sort of... He's apologised if his choice of language offended people. He's not actually retracting what he said. We've been speculating that Man United probably were not too keen on his comments.
Yeah. I mean, he hasn't made himself that popular at the club with some of
on a number of levels.
Lots of levels, with lots of cuts he's made there. What he was talking about that's got everybody all riled up is he was talking about the effect on the economy and business of uncontrolled migration, illegal migration, and the way he's phrased it, where he's talking about migrants have colonised Britain, doesn't, you know, it doesn't really bear scrutiny. When you really look at it, no, they haven't colonised Britain. But the point is, everybody's got very...
Colonised was you know, that word is causing problems, but I think the essence of what he said, millions of people agree with.
And what's happened is the classic thing that happens in these situations, everyone's got angry about that and has completely not discussed the merits of the wider point
John,
making.
can I just recommend you tune in to Talk, because we've been talking about it all afternoon.
Well,
but I take your point there.
There's going to be stories in the paper tomorrow. This will be a secondary story. The other stories are going to be, again, about the migration issue and the negative effects of it. So that's the reality.
Yeah, I mean, he could have, you know, the use of the word colonised, you know, he probably could have improved on. That's not the point. The meaning and the essence of what he said, millions of Brits agree with, and I know that millions of Sun readers will agree with that. So we look forward to the paper tomorrow. I like this story, Pepper Priggs. Is this for real? A woke theatre is pulling sausage roll and bacon butties from its cafe during the Peppa Pig show. It's the stage next month. Is that in case Peppa Pig gets offended or something?
Yeah, exactly. Well, they caved to the animal rights extremists. This is it's a Peppa Pig live experience.
Grimsby Auditorium.
Grimsby Auditorium, yeah. And normally they've got ham sandwiches, they've got Scotch eggs, they've got sausage rolls, bacon sarnies, all that good stuff that most of us enjoy. They came under quite a lot of pressure from PETA, which is the animal rights
organisation.
And they said, look, you shouldn't have pig flesh, as they call it.
Particularly on a Peppa Pig.
I don't think, I mean, the little kids are not going to have been offended by it. Yeah. They don't know. And...
so when Peppa Pig goes and there's another show, then the bacon sandwiches will be back.
And quite frankly, if I was,
that's ridiculous.
Exactly. If I was a parent, I went to watch the Peppa Pig movie last year.
On your own, or
with my kid, I have to say. And you know, love my kid, but it was it's a bit of an ordeal to sit through that sort of thing. And if you can have a sausage roll or Scotch egg while you're doing it, you know, it makes up for it a little bit. But they've lots of people online saying go woke, go broke. You know, you couldn't make it up.
And I hope that is your headline, Peppa Priggs. Good story, good story. All in the Sun tomorrow, folks. Big thanks to John Lucas, the night news editor of that great paper. Next up, it's Kinsey Schofield on the Royals, all the way from California, so stay where you are.
We genuinely are on resignation watch. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Labour MPs, they say, listen, Keir, your position is untenable. This is all about appointing that rat, Peter Mandelson, who faces a criminal investigation.
Can Keir Starmer survive the Mandelson scandal? We have breaking news for you. We've just been talking about, of course, Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff. We've now had another resignation from number 10. Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, Tim Allen, has now also resigned. The plot is thickening. The noose is tightening.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Just about to go over to Kinsey Schofield in LA, but I better read a few of your messages. Thanks for sending them in. Didn't read enough today, but we always do read them all, and I'll try to endeavour to read more out in the future. This is from Rich. From Betty, talking about councils banning dog walkers. Funny you don't see any London councils taking action against all the gangs and their dogs used for intimidation, says Betty. Richie in Grimsby says, good evening, Kev. Why ban dogs from parks? Ban people. Dogs are better than people. Could not agree with you more. Here's Diane says, no, this is Russ from Stourbridge. He said, I tried to catch a bus with my 2 German shepherds. The driver wouldn't stop despite me making it obvious I wanted him to stop. I assume it was because he was of ethnic heritage. I guess we don't know that. But, you know, I'm not knocking Muslims for not liking dogs, but it is a fact. It's a thing. It's up to them, but that is definitely what happens when Muslims come into contact with dogs. They don't like it much. Here is Stuart. He says, let's hope President Trump wins his lawsuit against the horrible, rotten paedophile employing and paedophile defending anti-British treacherous BBC. And Polly says, I truly believe Starmer knows he's finished and so is deliberately sabotaging this country. I mean, I wish he was deliberately sabotaging this country. I genuinely think it's just pure, staggering incompetence. Lots of texts and messages supporting what Jim Ratcliffe said. So enough of that. Thank you very much for your messages. We'll get more into the show tomorrow. We'll get more phone calls in as well. But let's go over now to Kinsey Schofield over there on the west coast of America. She is the host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered, and she is without a doubt my favourite guest. How are you doing, Kinsey?
Oh my gosh, Kevin, what a way to start an interview.
Yeah, well, just buttering you up so you say the right things, you know. No, it's true. It's true, of course. You know that. Extraordinary revelations. They're going to be in the Sun tomorrow. They kind of emerged yesterday, you know, when Pat Bondi was fighting with all the Democrats in Washington. That picture of Prince Andrew kneeling over a girl who's redacted, I mean, fully clothed, to be fair, at Jeffrey Epstein's mansion. It turns out that girl is one of his sex trafficking victims. And now that really ups the ante in terms of the trouble that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is in. Gordon Brown, our former Prime Minister today, telling the police to get their skates on and interview this guy, not just because of his potential criminal activity selling British secrets to his friend Jeffrey Epstein when he was a trade envoy, but also allegedly because he could well be part of Epstein's sex trafficking operation. The Gordon Brown saying the police need to interview him fast. This is such an escalating crisis for the royal family, isn't it?
Well, first of all, I want to say, color me cynical, that an American politician says this. I feel like American politicians are using this to build their own platforms. And I say that because I'm watching your country self-destruct over this. Meanwhile, there are a lot of very big names on that list of people still in leadership in the United States that are just laying low, that aren't having to deal with any consequences whatsoever. We don't see them demanding, we don't see Congress demanding them go sit down and be interviewed in front of them over the Epstein files. So you know, I need to hear one more person tell me that that is a sex trafficking victim before I'm going to take it as truth. But
yeah, it's Prince Andrew, so I'm leaning towards it's true.
I know.
It's him, for God's sake, you know. You know, these are just allegations at the moment.
Don't you also think he's such a moron? He's such an idiot. He's such an entitled piece of garbage that he might and Virginia Giuffre says this in her memoir. He felt entitled to her. Like, he was like, you're lucky to be with me because I'm a prince. Does he really think of these women? Does he understand the circumstances of how these women are coming into his life? Or does he think Jeffrey Epstein's like, hey, want to go hook up with a prince? I don't know if he's properly processing the situation or if he just is such a total tool. Does that make sense?
I think he is a total tool, but it's well known that in this entire disgraceful saga, he's in denial. He doesn't realise, or perhaps he's deliberately trying not to realise the depth of the trouble he's in. He is going to get...
To the point where his friends are asking if he has mental health issues. And I'm not talking about, I'm depressed. I'm saying you're not processing information properly.
Yeah,
is that a mental health issue?
I think he does have a problem. I mean, he is notoriously thick or dumb, as you say in the States, and he's pompous. And he's got himself into a world of trouble. Now, yet this morning's Sun, today's Sun newspaper, you no doubt will have seen it, sensationally reveals. You know, I think that the lowest point of the royal family in recent years was when they ill-advisedly gave Andrew £12 million, 12 million quid, to hand to Virginia Giuffre. Effectively, that was hush money to keep Jeffrey Epstein's secrets. The royal family should never have got involved in that grubby deal. Today, this morning, we find out what we always suspected, that Andrew didn't have a pot to pee in, so he had to borrow most of the money from his mother, the Queen, the late great Queen. Massive mistake by her. She didn't often make mistakes, but that was a huge mistake. And it was a huge mistake by our current king because he funded the rest of the money when he was Prince Charles. The king owes us a massive apology for this huge mistake that they made, don't you think?
And Prince Philip as well. It was Prince Philip, Queen Elizabeth, and Prince Charles at the time. I've been defending him for the last few weeks, saying, look, it's my understanding he hated his brother. So why would he know his brother's schedule? Why would he know his brother's social circle? He couldn't stand him. They couldn't carry on a conversation. But if I'm asking someone for millions of dollars in a loan, I'm going to need to know exactly where that money is going and what it's for. I have a very hard time defending him about this particular instance. But what I have spoken to people that worked at the palace, and they have told me that Andrew lied to his family and said that this wasn't true, and that said that this was that he was you know, that this was basically extortion, and the family was trying to protect him. Again, you know,
I'll tell you what exactly. I know what they were doing. And I've got some sympathy for it. It was the Queen's special Jubilee year.
Jubilee.
Yeah, it was a Jubilee year. They didn't want those celebrations to be overshadowed by this sordid, grubby affair, so they gave Andrew the money. That was a massive mistake. But the idea, you know, I mean, the King, or the Prince as he was then, and the Queen and Prince Philip, they're not stupid. If Andrew's going to go to them and say, can I have £12 million to give to Virginia Giuffre to stop her going into the New York Civil Court? Yeah, what do you want that for? Well, she's telling lies about me. It's not true, but can you give me 12 million? You know, what they would say is, look, if it's not true, you don't have to give her £12 million. Right. They gave him that money. It was hush money to make that problem go away. As I say, Her Majesty the Queen didn't make many mistakes, but that was a massive mistake. It was a massive mistake on Prince Philip's part, and it was a massive mistake on the then Prince of Wales, Charles's part. And Charles is the king now. He's got to apologise for this.
And can we seriously take a moment to process? Like, I was there for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. Was I not going to show up if Andrew was going to civil court. No, I was still, I got COVID. I was still going to show up. I showed up, I got COVID in those crowds. I got stuck there in your country because they wouldn't let me on an airplane. No, I was still going to go to the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, and I did. You know, like, I know that you're exactly right. That was the thought process. But would we have stayed home? No, we would have still gone out and celebrated the royal family if all this chaos was surrounding Andrew, because we would have been able to say, well, Andrew's not Queen Elizabeth. Let's celebrate Queen Elizabeth because we love her. You're right, but the justification, it doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. I mean, as I say, if somebody wants to borrow 12 million quid from me, I mean, first of all, they'll be in a bit of trouble because last time I looked at my bank account...
Because you only have 11 million.
No, you'd be in trouble trying to borrow 12 quid off me, never mind 12 million. But I'd want to know why. And if the reason was, well, there's this woman telling lies about me, so I want to get her to stop telling lies and give her £12 million, I would just say, they're telling lies. What's the problem? What's the problem? I mean, you know, let's not beat about the bush. Andrew continues to say, you know, I handed Virginia Giuffre, God rest her soul, by the way, poor lady took her life, her own life. I handed her £12 million, but I absolutely never met her, and I didn't do what she accuses me of doing, which is sexually abuse her on 3 different continents. Nobody believes Andrew when he says that, do they?
Well, they shouldn't, because we've seen, thanks to these DOJ jobs, that's legitimately not true. Ghislaine Maxwell specifically says in an email to Jeffrey Epstein, I was there when we took that picture. That picture is legitimate. So, I mean, that's just one of many instances I can give you going through those emails and Andrew's lies popping up. He broke up with Epstein after he became a convicted sex offender, yet he's literally sending government secrets months later. I mean, you can't trust Andrew to save his life, which is why I don't think that he should testify before Congress. What a waste of resources. And I just don't want to hear from him. I want him to go away.
Oh, well, I want him to be fully criminally investigated by the police. I want his collar felt. I want him to be interviewed by the British police very, very quickly, both for allegedly selling British secrets to his buddy Jeffrey Epstein, and also because of allegations that he was right at the centre of Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking operations. He needs to be interviewed fast by our police on 2 counts. Now, Kinsey, I'm finding this conversation very strange because you and I haven't mentioned the gruesome twosome yet, Meghan and Harry. What's happening with them?
Well, there was an interesting story that came out this week here in the States that Meghan's reportedly seeing a memoir, an opportunity of writing a memoir as a way to reclaim her story. But sources say Prince Harry is doing everything he can to block it, fearing it could derail his efforts to repair ties with the royal family, which we're seeing very aggressively right now due to the Invictus Games coming up there. But according to reports here, Meghan's been offered, a multi-million dollar deal. I don't think that there is, that's not hard for me to imagine, a publisher offering Meghan.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But she has got to know by now, 6 years in, that she will look like a miserable, bitter woman stuck in the past because the deal is she would have to talk about her time within the British royal family.
Of course.
Meghan's justifying it by going, well, this is finally my time. I was silenced. This is finally my time to tell my side of the story. We got 6 hours of Netflix, 90 minutes of Oprah Winfrey, spare. How many times do we have to hear your multiple versions of events? We got, what was it, Omid Scobie's book where he claims who the royal racists were. I mean, we've heard a million sides of her story, but apparently it's creating friction at home because Harry is so desperate to get back into the family.
Yeah, well, good luck with that, Harry. That's not going to happen, but a really interesting little tale there, Kinsey. Always great to talk to you. Have a lovely weekend. We'll talk on Monday. Kinsey Schofield there over in Los Angeles, and over across on the other side of the console, it's Alex Phillips. How you doing, Alex?
Oh, Kinsey, you almost scored a Kia.
Kinsey Starmer.
Poor lamb.
Right, let me read you this.
Yeah.
This is just this is one example of what my switchboard has been jammed with today. This is from Margaret in Birmingham.
Oh, I love Margaret.
Can these useless, incompetent MPs like Lammy and Reeves shut the hell up and get lost? Sir Jim Ratcliffe is right, saying what we all think, and Starmer, just resign and do us all a favour. Worst Prime Minister in history. Put that on your CV. Now, the point is, Jim Ratcliffe, it's been misconstrued. He's apologised for what he said yesterday.
He didn't need to apologise.
He didn't apologise.
Say what he likes.
He just said, I'm sorry if I offended anyone. He hasn't retracted what he said. Oh. And who the hell does the Prime Minister think he is, telling people what they can and cannot say?
It's so ridiculous. We have infinity migration. Everyone can see it. Is it a colonising force? Yes, in some parts of the country. We saw with West Midlands Police that you have Muslim community leaders basically telling law enforcement what to do. We've got pro-Gaza candidates in Parliament. We've got entire councils run by Bangladeshi men in certain boroughs of London. Colonising means coming into a country and then trying to take control of it. And there are some parts of this country, not the whole of the UK, but some parts of this country where it is... Without doubt, that's happened.
Yeah.
It's happened.
And also, let's not get our knickers in a twist about the word colonised. A lot of people saying, "Oh, it's the wrong word." Look,
Who cares?
we know what he's saying.
Police the borders, not language. For crying out loud.
The essence of what he's saying, millions of Brits utterly agree with, and this Prime Minister and his useless government once again proving they're completely out of touch with what people think.
We have the highest energy prices in the world. Jim Ratcliffe is the one man who could turn that around.